All right, Heather? A through Z.
Let's just go with O.
Oh, why would we go with O? Nothing big happened in the last few weeks that has anything to do with an O.
You're right. It's just so random. It's a random letter.
Fine, Heather. I guess we can talk a little about the Oscars, which you should have said A for because it's the Academy Awards.
Yeah, but we have a thing for A.
Oh, look at you trying to be sassy.
Then I had to sing something probably about the Academy Awards, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, I would have just made you sing Wicked. You can sing Wicked, can't you? Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Jastin, are you?
Did you freeze, Jastin? No? All right, we're good.
Sorry.
All right. Well, anyway.
I didn't hear you.
I could sing Wicked,
bad.
though.
I was trying to pull up everything I was going to use.
You're good.
Sorry. My bad. Thought you were still talking to Heather.
I don't know. Heather said she couldn't hear me. Then it looked like you were frozen. I just thought we were having all kinds of problems at once. I don't know. All I will say, though, is fine. I'll talk about the Oscars.
Great.
We had some controversy with the Oscars, as we do every year. But this year, though, it was almost like a little extra. So, Michelle. So, whenever the in memoriam section came to the Academy Awards, they just decided to leave out like a lot of big name people. They did talk about Gene Hackman, which we will talk a little bit more about later. But also, they just decided, you know what? If you've ever been on a TV show, fuck you. Because they didn't bring up Michelle Trachtenberg, who died a couple of days before. Gene Hackman, they didn't bring up Shannon Doherty, who passed away earlier this year. Didn't bring up Tony motherfucking Todd, who passed away earlier this year. Not even to mention, they didn't bring up Olivia Hussey. Or Husey, I don't know how to say her name, I'm sorry. Who people may know as, for the longest time, the big screen version of Juliet. She's in 1968's Romeo and Juliet. I watched that in 9th grade in high school. You know, while we were reading it. We watched that. I mean, so you had her. She was also in so many things. I pulled her up earlier. And I was really surprised at some of the things she had been in that I didn't even realize. She was also in Death on the Nile in 1978, from when that's Sean Connery when he was in that one. Black Christmas, the original 1974 one. But also some of the things she was in that kind of really surprised me. She was in a lot of video games, specifically Star Wars. She was in the Star Wars The Old Republic video game as additional voices. She was in Star Wars Force Commander as a voice. She's in Star Wars Rogue Squadron as some voices. I'm like, damn. She played Talia al Ghul in Batman Beyond.
Huh. So she's done quite a bit of stuff.
And a lot, yeah.
She also played Esther in a TV miniseries about Esther. I mean, when you're the name person of a biblical story, you got to be big. But yeah, she was in a lot of stuff like that, and nothing didn't even mention her. It's fucking bonkers.
Yeah, I feel like they got in trouble not too long ago for missing people that were a big deal too, like
Every
Luke
year.
Perry.
Every year.
Yeah.
Every year they fuck it up.
Yeah. I don't know who they left out last year, but I'm sure somebody.
Yeah, it seems like every year somebody that you think would just be a given is left out. So I feel like whoever's in charge of that, whether it's a team of people or if it's one person, it almost feels like it's one person. Because I could then maybe see that person being overwhelmed and making all these mistakes. But I don't know. They might need to do something else. They need to gather up these names, and there should be somebody as part of that staff that keeps up with this and knows who's dying and keeps up with the news and stuff. I mean, most businesses have a media department or a media person who just knows this shit. Like, it's their job to know this shit. So it feels kind of inexcusable.
Yeah, another person that passed away that they didn't mention is Martin Mull, which everybody would know him, I think, almost instantly as Colonel Mustard from the Clue movie. He's been in so many things. That's one of the more universal grabs for him that most people just know automatically. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. They blow my mind.
I'm also wondering, I didn't see that section, but I wonder if they also forgot Chance Perdomo. He died earlier last year. So I don't know if they put him. I feel like they probably didn't. But
I do not know about that. I haven't seen anybody mention that. That they, whether or not he was in it.
I'm looking at an article now that says every star left out, and it's Michelle Trachtenberg, Shannon Doherty, Tony Todd, and Chance Perdomo's pictures on there too. So he was also left out.
Of course.
Just so many people.
You have one show a year. It just feels you have the whole year to gather these names. And to miss some that died that week is just terrible. Like, that just feels like negligence.
Dude, especially when the whole point of you is to celebrate the art of film.
Yeah.
And you just drop the ball like that. I get that Tony Todd was not nominated for an Academy Award. But, who cares? You can't tell me that he does not have a lasting impact on movies just for the sheer fact of playing fucking Candyman. Like, him playing Candyman and him voicing the mortician / death in Final Destination, cements him as a horror icon. And whether the Academy Awards wants to recognize it or not, horror movies are a thing. Like, I know the Academy is real hesitant to acknowledge horror movies, but that is a huge part of film culture, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, just get somebody passionate about that to do it. Just, to me, it's an easy fix. Just get somebody who actually cares about that stuff to do it. That's it.
You're telling me that you can't just even Google the day before? You can't Google?
I do that anyway on a regular basis about who died this year that I don't that I didn't remember died or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a very normal person thing to do.
Yeah, you can just Google. I would understand if it was the day of,
Yeah.
But you're telling me you're the Academy Awards. You're celebrating movies. You've got these little vignettes and all this other stuff. You're telling me you don't have enough people that are talented enough at video editing that they couldn't slot another picture in real quick? Just another little picture. Can't slot a picture and put a name on there. Come on.
Yeah. And at least if you don't have them on the big video display, why couldn't whoever not a presenter per se, but like how there's a host and the host will introduce it and say, here's the in memoriam of these people. Well, after it plays, you can say there were some people that were not up there, but we want to mention them and read off the damn names.
You couldn't have a crawl? You could put a crawl at the bottom of the screen?
Yeah.
They could put that with sports scores, but you can't
read
put
off
people.
the damn names that you didn't have up there.
And the Academy Award, their defense is, but they were on our website. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, and also kind of like what you were saying, I mean, Gene Hackman got a very special honorable thing said about him by Morgan Freeman, I think. And which is totally well and fair because it's Gene Hackman, but I'm saying Michelle Trachtenberg died before he did, but they were able to get Gene Hackman in. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was the same week, like a few days apart from each other, but somehow they couldn't get Michelle Trachtenberg in there. It was weird.
Yeah. Within a few days, you can coordinate with Morgan Freeman, write a speech, coordinate with your director and time slot people and all this other stuff and figure out where you're putting it, doing all that extra shit. And you can't just put someone else's name and picture in the fucking slideshow. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Inexcusable.
It's, because there are very few things that are definitive when it comes to movies. Like we've, demonstrated several times on here, everything's subjective with movies. The few definitive things there are is like who's in a movie and also, who's passed away. It's pretty fucking definitive. There's nothing subjective about it. It is not controversial to say somebody's name when they passed away.
Yeah.
Even Morgan Spurlock, who was nominated for an Academy Award, I think, for Super Size Me, still wasn't in the fucking thing. Come on. I don't even like the guy. And I'm still saying, come on.
I mean, that was Harriet the Spy.
Jastin, don't drag her down by saying that.
Sterling, she was Harriet
Jastin,
the Spy. Okay.
You know that is one of my...
You're just going to have to deal with that.
You know that is one of my most hated movies to ever exist.
Well, you go back and watch it.
No.
It might be like that movie. No. It might be like Dance the Night Away. You might like it.
No, it is not the same as The Forbidden Dance.
You might go back and watch it and go, you know what, Michelle? Okay, Michelle.
Jastin, do you remember when that gang of kids got on rollerblades and were like chasing her down to murder her? And they're like, yeah, this is normal. You remember that? Yeah.
Children kill sometimes.
They do, Jastin. That's fair, I guess. But, I mean, I don't think that should be a plot point in a children's book or, I don't know, a Nickelodeon movie.
All I know is she was Harriet the Spy. So it's inexcusable.
You could just say she was Dawn from Buffy.
Yeah, she was that.
Georgina from Gossip Girl?
Yep, Georgina.
Just any of the other people? You can just say any of that?
I could have Sterling, but I like where this landed us. But bottom line, she should have been mentioned.
What if you had said she was Penny from Inspector Gadget? Or Ginny from Eurotrip?
Oh my God, Eurotrip. I forgot she was in that.
She's the best thing about that movie. How do you? Well, all right, second best. Scotty doesn't know.
Probably so.
Scotty doesn't know is the first best.
Yeah.
and then it's Michelle Trachtenberg.
Which I didn't realize till all this stuff was happening that she has a couple of kids with Seth Green.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh. I feel for them. That's sad. She was what, only 39? Like she wasn't even 40, man. That's
she did have liver issues. I didn't look up as to what, but she had fairly recently at least, had a liver transplant. So
yeah,
it looks to have been from complications from that. Not of the transplant, but the transplanted organ within itself, I think, ended up being the issue. Because organ transplants are, very dangerous as it is as far as acceptance and all this other stuff, but liver's even worse. Like, liver's one of the ones that it's the least damaging to the person giving a liver, because you can give like half your liver and you're fine. But also, liver don't like shit. So, at least that's what I heard. I'm not a medical professional. Do not quote me on any of that, but that is what I'd heard other medical professionals say. So, but yes, that does segue me into, at least, yes, Michelle Trachtenberg did pass away last week, and so did legendary screen actor Gene Hackman. It is very tempting to go into the mysteriousness that is Gene Hackman's death. It was him, it was his wife, and I do not want to leave it on that, because she was an acclaimed fucking pianist, and I don't like that I do not know her name off the top of my head. I'm trying to fucking find it. And this is
as you're looking for that, I heard that there were some new developments with that. I couldn't hear it, but while I was working out at the gym, there were some people talking about it, and the headline was "New Developments in Gene Hackman's Death," and his wife and everything. And I wanted to hear what they were saying, but they were talking about it anyway.
Okay, so it was. Her name was Betsy Arakawa. She was a classical pianist. I just really hated not knowing her name, because she is a fucking person. She is not just Gene Hackman's wife. And it's been driving me nuts that people keep calling her, Gene Hackman and his wife. I'm like, she's got a fucking name, people. Stop it. And it was like, I was having a moment of crisis there, because I couldn't remember her name. And I'm like, fuck, I am doing what every other asshole did. That was driving me nuts. Betsy Arakawa. Yes, while it is insanely tempting, I what I'm going to say about that is, give me a week, because I want to have the most information I can, and it has been so shifting that way we can, because I don't want to go into like the rumor mill of it, like that's what's so messy with it, and because it is incredibly strange, without getting into specifics. It's, when they're like, it's a suspicious death, but it's not foul play. That's when you get into some stuff that is kind of crazy. Because they're like, this is not normal shit, but we also don't think that somebody murdered them. So. You look confused, Jastin.
No, it's just the whole thing is really strange.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm like, give me a week. Let me sift through some of this stuff. I just don't want to add to the rumor mill of that, because it's such a mess all the way around. And I do see an article. It's about 14 hours old, from USA Today. It's like a timeline.
Okay.
Of everything. And so I want to be able to go through that and at least like pull out the bullet points, so then that way, I don't want to just try to skim through an article while we're talking about it and miss shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so next week we will talk more in depth on that. But yeah, that's it. I feel like every other day there's something else that comes out, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? It is insane.
It's really such a weird one. Also, I apologize. I have to correct myself. Michelle Trachtenberg did not have kids with Seth Green. That was an article about something else, like something else about them that was fake. So my bad. They did not have children together.
Fair enough.
So yeah, she didn't have kids. Sorry, everybody. I looked at a terrible article, apparently. Anyways.
See, that's what sucks.
You gotta watch what you look at, guys. Yeah. It's bad. And again, like you were saying, like the rumor thing too, with surrounding deaths and all of that, it's real. You get so much misinformation if you look at the wrong sources.
Oh yeah. Celebrity deaths become just fuel for the fire that is garbage on the internet.
Yeah.
I've seen all kinds of fantasy stuff.
I've seen people saying Gene Hackman died because he got a COVID shot. Like, you motherfuckers, just stop.
They said that about Michelle Trachtenberg too.
Just stop.
Yep.
Like, regardless of anything, even if you were to play devil's advocate and say, yes, Gene Hackman died because he got a COVID shot, the correlation of that would also, you would have to tie into the fact he was 95.
Yeah.
That changes shit for everybody. The most tip-top healthy 95-year-old still has health worries and concerns that average younger people don't have. Like, that's life. So even if he did die because he got a COVID shot, he's 95. That's still a different story. That's still not a universal medical claim you can make. You cannot base your understanding of health on people that are in their 90s and apply it to the rest of the world. But it's disgusting.
Yeah, like you can't apply any reason for a 95-year-old to have passed should not be the standard of, all right, kids, look what happens when, like, he was 95 years old.
Yeah, using a person's death to make some sort of political statement or take some sort of political stance. I hate when people do that, and they love to do it all the time.
Oh, we mentioned the same thing with what's his name, the Buffalo Bill guy, Hamlin. Whenever he went down, and people within a day are like, yeah, his heart stopped because of the COVID shot. I'm like, motherfucker, that guy just almost died on the fucking football field. We all literally almost watched a man die fucking playing football. And you want to say what?
Yeah, you want to reduce it to something to make a point.
And the thing is if someone does pass away and they do an autopsy and they go, man, due to our medical tests, fuck guys, that was the COVID shot that did that. Fair enough. Because that's real. It's not just you saying something the day after because you want it to be true.
Yeah.
If someone dies from the COVID vaccine or they, determine that was the cause, I'll be the first person to accept it. And I love the COVID vaccine. I love it. If I could, I would do a Pee Wee Herman and I would marry it. I love it so much. But if there's like an actual thing and it comes out like that, I'll admit it. I'll be like, yeah, that really sucks that the COVID vaccine did that. Still won't stop my love. I'm not going to lie. I've had a lot of COVID shots, guys. I've had a lot. I've gotten several boosters. And I still don't feel like that would ever kill me. I feel like there's lots of other stuff I've done in my life that are higher up on the that's why Sterling died list than the number of COVID shots I've got. And it's a lot.
Like your Infinity Stones. Just gotta have all of them.
Oh, I feel so good after I get a COVID shot too. I really do. Anytime I get any vaccine, I have like a pep in my step. Like I go outside, I go into the Walgreens, I get my shots, and I go outside. And the sun just seems a little brighter. The birds just chirp a little happier. The sun's doing a little dance. It's fantastic.
Interesting. Most people feel not great after the shot, but then they get better.
Oh, no, I love it. I've never gotten sick after a flu shot, COVID shot, none of it. My body just, no, because my body knows it's what it needs.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't have any side effects from the COVID shot either. Just went in there, got it. Was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Or any other times I've done it, any other boosters or anything, I've never really had a, other than just the arm stinging a bit where they shot me, but that's it. It just comes and goes. But
it's crazy that your muscle's a little sore after you get stabbed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I never really had COVID. So I, had some folks that had it, had some people near me that had it, had some friends that had it. But I never got it. Or if I did have it, I didn't know. I was unaware.
Same.
Yeah. Same thing, dude. If I had it, I never once tested positive for it.
Me neither.
I got sick a couple of times, but then like there's one time I got real sick. I took a COVID test like every day, negative every day. Like did a whole thing with like Teladoc thing, all this other stuff. And they're like, yeah, it sounds like you just had the flu. That was the one year I didn't get the flu shot. And I was so mad. Oh, I was so mad. Because like, it was one of those bullshit things where I had the flu shot appointment lined up and something happened. And I just couldn't end up going. I had to cancel it and all this other shit. And then I ended up getting a flu like a week or two later. Oh, I was so fucking mad.
Damn.
Yeah, I guess to be fair, like last time I did it, I got my flu shot and my vaccine shot at the same time. So that's probably why I definitely had some like the symptoms that you get after you get that. Yeah.
Oh, those twofers? Oh man.
Yeah.
You're telling me I get 2 vaccines at the same time? Fuck yeah. God, I can't tell you how happy vaccines make me, guys. I love it. It's I'll admit it. It's a little weird. But I truly do love vaccines.
Yeah, I've never heard you talk about birds chirping and the sun shining about anything else.
Nothing
in the history of our podcast.
Nothing. There are 2 things that bring me that much joy. It's vaccines and cats.
Slowly followed by Troll Jastin Day.
Until we forgot it. Man, can't believe we both forgot it.
Priorities changed, I guess.
But we both felt it, though. It was funny how we both felt like we felt its presence, though.
At the same time, we're like, wait a second.
It's today.
It's literally, there's 1 hour left. Oh, man. Anyway, more Academy Award news. Our girl, was it Mikey Madison? Or is it Madison or Madsen?
Madison.
Mikey Madison. Won Best Actress. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Loved it. One thing with that has been driving me nuts, though, is so many people are making the same critique, observation, criticism, joke, whatever the fuck you want to call it, about how, it should have been Demi Moore's, but she lost to a younger actress, which is, they're like, and that's just the plot of The Substance. And I don't think you've seen The Substance yet. Have you, Jastin?
I saw it.
All right, you saw it. Yeah, okay, cool. We've all seen it. And this, I'm not really going to get into spoilers. I just want to, to ask real quick. Yeah, that's not the case here, people. Like, I thought Demi Moore was great in The Substance.
She was.
But The Substance did not make me go, I can't wait to see what Demi Moore does next. Mikey Madison and Honora made me go, I cannot wait to see what she does next. I cannot wait to see her perform again. Which is why it's not the same.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that Demi Moore was bad. Because she wasn't. She did a really good job in that movie.
Yeah.
But I've also seen her do pretty good in other fucking things too. Mikey Madison had a career-changing movie. She did a career-changing performance. Like, that is a definitive role.
Yeah, and it's like they're undermining that or trying to take that away from her by saying, oh, you just robbed Demi Moore.
Yeah.
And no, she worked hard for that role.
And to me, it wasn't even close. Would I have been mad if Demi Moore won? No. Because the Academy Awards have been notorious for giving people career achievement Academy Awards when it's not necessarily their best performance. Like, can we all admit, regardless of how you feel about Sandra Bullock, The Blind Side wasn't her best?
I can admit that, and I love her. It's fair. Yeah, it's not her best at all.
You know, Jamie Lee Curtis, she's fantastic in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Was that really her best performance ever? You know,
Not even close.
Martin Scorsese, is The Departed really his best movie? I like The Departed. Is it his best? No. Was The Revenant really Leonardo DiCaprio's best acting performance? No. The Academy Awards does this a lot. And it's unfortunate that Demi Moore didn't get that, but at the same time, do not take away what Mikey Madison did. Like, that's counterproductive to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those where really, I think it could have went either way. And I mean, these things are like voter,
That's fair.
Okay, so she got more votes. But also, I think sometimes it's also swayed by the movie that you're in. And I think Honora is a better movie. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes that also plays into these things because people should be reminded that these are human beings voting. And if you felt better about the Honora film than you did about the Substance film, that might have played a hand too into which performance you thought was the best. You know, if this story is better, if this character is better done, better executed, had better supporting cast around them, had all these other factors that go into having a movie, also could have played a factor into it. And when you look at Honora won so many different awards for so many other things on top of the acting award.
Yeah.
So I think that had something to do with it too. You know, I'm pretty sure it seems like just from the awards it won, Honora was just a better received movie overall. So sometimes your one really good acting performance doesn't always supersede the overall quality of the film. I mean, sometimes it can, but that's not every case. And I agree with what you said, Sterling. Would I have been mad if Demi Moore won it? No, I wouldn't have, because she was very, very good in that movie. She was great in the movie, The Substance. But again, I can't be mad that Mikey Madison won either. You know, I'm not mad. She did great too. So to me, it's kind of one of those toss-up things, but this time the Academy went to the person who was in the better movie.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes.
Yeah, not everybody can be Meryl Streep in The Iron Lady.
Right. But I mean, it's also cool too because, I mean, she is now the second youngest person to win a Best Actress award. It's Jennifer Lawrence at 22 and then Mikey Madison at 25, I think. So that's quite an achievement, I would say. You know what I mean? Like, instead of trying to like take away from that achievement that I think she deserves, like, again, it is no shade to Demi Moore because I think she was great in that movie too. But like, Maggie Madison, like, she had to just display so many different things in that movie, and she just did it perfectly. And I think even Sterling, you mentioned in the podcast we did, her performance was perfect. Like, there was nothing to change. There was nothing to take away, nothing to add. It was a perfect portrayal of the character. And I agree. And I think that's exactly why she should have won this. I think all of the performances I saw in that category, they were all fantastic. But I mean, I really was rooting for her to win.
And also, I think too, like when I look at the performances, as much as I did enjoy Demi Moore in that, I thought that Margaret, the one who played Sue, she was very much a big part of what made The Substance good too. You know, she had a great performance as her younger, whatever you want to call it. Yeah,
she was a bit
counterpart.
snubbed, wasn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, in the body counterpart. So that film felt like more of sort of a tag team kind of performance. Like, I get that Demi Moore is the lead, but it was very much a tag team sort of thing with this whole body switching type of, but same, different body, same mind type of storyline that it has. So I feel like too, it might have been a little harder for Demi to separate from that. Whereas Honora, that is just all her. You know what I'm saying? She is the main character of that film.
Yeah.
She has supporting, but not in the way that Margaret was a supporting to Demi. So I think that's also a part of it too.
Well, I mean, and Jastin, you could probably speak better to this than I can, but I mean, look at wrestling. The individual stars always shine brighter than the tag teams.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that some of the tag team wrestlers aren't just as talented as some of the individual stars. It's just the nature of being a part of a team will diminish a little bit, at least how much you shine individually. Because there's always that team aspect to it. And that's very much akin to what it was in The Substance.
Yeah.
That was a tag team.
It really was. Like, if The Substance had been Demi Moore playing both bodies, but they de-aged her or made her look different or something like that, but she played both the Sue character and the Elizabeth character, might be a different story. But unfortunately, that's not what it was. Those two actresses were playing off of each other a lot in that film. What one was doing directly impacted how the other was doing. And so even though I loved Demi Moore's performance, I think a lot of it I loved because of the other performance of the other actress. You know, Margaret Qualley?
Quali. Mm-hmm.
Qualley was great too. Like, and really helped Demi Moore's performance be as great as it was. But when I look the other way, in Honora, that was really just her, man. Everything was her. She was in just about every scene. She was in just about every interaction.
She's
all the
in
interactions
like
with the
98% of that movie.
Yeah.
The movie's named after her. Yeah.
So it's just really tough to overcome that. Like I think when you look at those two things, that's sort of where um that's where I think Honora sort of separates from the substance a little bit.
And from what I've heard, and I haven't seen it yet, but A Real Pain, like it's sort of the same with like Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg being like very much equally a part of that movie. You know what I mean? Where it's like there. I mean, and I don't know if Jesse Eisenberg really got a ton of stuff for that, like as far as like a best actor or supporting actor role. I don't think he did. But like I feel like you can like it's easy to be like, oh yeah, Kieran is a supporting character, but also like is Jesse Eisenberg a main character or is he also just kind of a counterpart supporting because of just how the movie works?
And
you know?
And that's where a lot of people mess up when it comes to the Academy Awards. You're not nominated into a category just because some people sit in a room and go, that's what category you're in. Sometimes it's also these studios going, I feel like this person will have a better chance winning this award, so they get that award. They did it with Jennifer Hudson back in the Dreamgirls days, because at the time she was just famous from having been on American Idol. And so she was doing a movie. And so what did they do? They put her as best supporting actress for Dreamgirls because they thought she would have a better chance of winning that than she would best actor, just for the fact that she was lesser well known at the time.
Yeah.
You know, and so that could be why Kieran Culkin got that, is because the studio could have made the argument of technically we could put him in best actor, or we would try to get him nominated for best actor, but we have a better shot if we probably put him in this other category. So that's why they do that.
Which is a good call because he swept award season this year.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the studios doing it that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, it's not the studios put forth who they want nominated. The Academy goes through and they get their final nominations, and then they, from the nominations, tally it down to the winners. You know.
But I am glad that you brought up Margaret Qualley with that, though, just because I feel like she did get a little bit snubbed. Like she wasn't even like in talks for a supporting or anything, which kind of sucks. But not to take away from any of the other people who were nominated, but I just feel like if you're putting up Demi Moore, like she was so equally a part of that movie, maybe she could have also been in the best supporting.
I mean, yeah,
same as probably Jesse Eisenberg, but yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is with that too is, I mean, really look at it. They were both 50-50 that role.
Yeah, they were.
You know, like the movie, it's 50-50. Like
that's why it worked. She was a big reason why it worked.
If she was not bringing the quality of work she brought, that movie would have been horrendous to watch. Because you would have been like, oh, the Demi scenes were great, but the other half of the movie was horrible. Like, nobody would give a fuck about that movie at that point. Demi Moore wouldn't be getting shit because everyone would have hated the movie.
That's true. That's a good point. So props to Margaret Qualley.
Yeah. Oh, she did. She was great in that. One final thing for news. While we're talking about the Academy Awards, want to bring up Best Supporting Actress winner Zoe Saldana. She won for Emilia Perez. And backstage, after she won, a Mexican journalist, Cristina Ibanez, asked her some questions. She's more or less said, hey, there's been a lot that's been said about this movie, but less has been said about Mexico, which is the heart of it. And to that, Zoe Saldana responded by saying, so what would you say about the heart of this movie, but also about the topic that has been really hurtful to Mexicans, is what Ibanez specifically said. And then Zoe Saldana's response was, first of all, I'm very, very sorry that you and so many Mexicans felt offended. That was never our intention. We spoke and came from a place of love, and I will stand by that. And then she says, I don't share that opinion, though. For me, the heart of this movie was not Mexico. We were not making a film about a country. We were making a film about 4 women. And these women could have been Russian, could have been Dominican, could have been black from Detroit, could have been from Israel, could have been from Gaza. And these women are very still universal women that are struggling every day, trying to survive systemic oppression and trying to find their most authentic voices. So I will stand by that. But, you know, that's fine and all. But when the setting of your movie is Mexico, the characters in your movie are Mexican, you're using very specific issues that deal with things that are happening in Mexico. Is that really something you can honestly say? Like, I get that might not be the universal themes or anything like that, but to say, or to try to pretend that your movie is divorced from that, I think is naive. And honestly, a little weak on her part, because, like I said, you're using specific things to Mexico as a part of your movie, and then just to go, it has nothing to do with that. Then why did you have drug cartels?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if that's the case, then, I mean, why didn't the director choose any other place? Because my understanding is he doesn't know much about the Mexican culture anyway, right?
Yeah, no, he hates it. He openly says that it's terrible. He's openly said that the Mexican language is garbage. His specific word is it's for developing countries. Yeah, so if that's really what your movie is about, and all this, I don't know, why the fuck isn't it in France then? If it's that
if it
universal,
could have been about any group of women, then don't do it about a place that you say you hate and know nothing about.
I mean, when your director's French, your writer's French, it's filmed in fucking France. None of your actors are Mexican. None of them. Then maybe don't have it be in Mexico. Why didn't you make the movie in France then? Why didn't you just say, oh, it's about French shit with these universal themes that these women have?
Yeah, that's a rough response, because I feel like I do feel like it's a slightly like PR scripted answer that she had to kind of give, maybe, or something like that. But part of it was, I'm sure, what she really felt. But like, she is from Colombia, I believe. And I feel like if that had been about where she's from, would she have had the same problem? Is it because she's removed from it being a misrepresentation of her culture? Is that why she's removed from being like, oh, I don't share that opinion? You know what I mean?
Okay. Her father is Dominican and her mother is Puerto Rican, and she was born in New Jersey.
Okay.
So she is not Colombian.
Apologies.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
But it's still, the sentiment is still the same as far as like, if it were about either of those places where she was from, would she share the like outrage, or would she share the disdain for how the country is represented, you know? And maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't. I don't know. I just feel like it's just an interesting answer to give, because I know a lot of her speech too was talking about being born of immigrants and things like that. So I just feel like it's an interesting response to give, given if that's like a big passionate thing for you. You know what I mean?
Man, I guess I really just need to. I just keep hearing things about this movie or people from this movie, and it just makes me want to watch it. I mean, I think it would just be easier to comment on what she said if I saw the movie and kind of knew what these things were. What are these hurtful things that the Mexican people are talking about? Is if I watch the movie, what I feel like it's a movie more focusing on the women and less about where they are. I wonder if I would have the same feeling just watching it, and maybe I can't like be like, oh, I'm a Mexican, so I can comment on these things. But at least watching the movie, it would give me a point of reference, and then I could watch some videos or read some comments and stuff about what about it was hurtful and gather an understanding. And I'm a little bit afraid because is some of the skepticism, because I know there's like a trans woman in this. I know that there's like sort of some things like that in it. So some of me is questioning, where are the hurtful comments coming from and who are they coming from? And are these genuine hurtful comments, or is this like, I don't want a certain type of woman represented or not represented? So, you got to watch some of that stuff too.
Well,
so
some of it, I know.
I feel like I just need to watch the film and know exactly what happened. Like, was there do I ever feel like it was intentionally hurtful towards Mexico, or were there things in it that are, I guess, would be considered hurtful stereotypes? I'm just kind of wondering what all
some
was
of it,
in this movie.
From what I've gathered, just from what I've read, do you remember how the last Rambo movie portrayed Mexico?
Yes.
Yeah, that.
So everybody's just a killer
and cartel members
and a rapist.
Yeah. And
okay.
And just more or less saying that, like, oh, Mexico can't possibly understand trans people. Which, as of right now, Mexico's doing better with trans people than America is. So, take that for what you will. We put a low bar there, but yeah, a lot of that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to watch this.
I mean,
show.
I just know that there were news reports of people in Mexico going to see this movie in theaters because it was released in theaters there, and they just left. They're just like, no, this is not it.
Yeah, I gotta see this.
And the reason why I'm slightly harder on Zoe Saldana about this, and why I kind of feel like she might be missing the point of what people are saying to her, is because of, what was it, in 2016, when she was in the movie Nina, playing Nina Simone. And, she did essentially blackface with a nose prosthetic to play a black woman. And was just like, I don't understand what the big deal is, guys. I'm an actor. That's why she's not getting the benefit of the doubt from me. Is she's had in the past issues with her understanding things of racial sensitivities. But anyway, you guys ready to review some movies?
Yep.
Somebody will listen to me. Nobody knows anything but you. All right. Are you ready? Yes. Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight we're going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between for hopefully 2 movies. Time permitting. Who knows with us? We went 3 hours on Pooh, Blood, and Honey, too. So, who knows? We're going to talk about the new Osgood Perkins movie, The Monkey. And hopefully we will also be talking about the 3rd movie of the Paddington trilogy, Paddington in Peru. We will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around with both audio and video formats, or hopefully both movies. Trying to will it into existence, guys. With all that, let's start with our resident primate toy expert, Heather. What are your spoiler-free thoughts about this here, the monkey? We're starting with the monkey.
Do I want to know how I became the expert? Just go with it. All right.
Are you saying you did not play with wind-up primate toys?
I am saying that, but you know what? I did think they were cool when I was younger, so I'll take that.
Well, see, that's 100% more cool than I thought they were. So, I mean, Jastin, what are your thoughts about wind-up primate toys?
Never had one, and I mean, I guess they're okay.
See, you think they're cool, Heather. Therefore, you're the expert.
Yeah,
Child Heather
Hey.
thought they were cool.
Yeah, Child Heather was into them. Was into the monkeys.
That's 100% more like of them than I ever did. So,
Used to play with it while you ate your nugget logs, or what do they call it at Burger King?
Jastin, I want you to just think real quick. Would you ever eat anything that was called a nugget log?
What does it look like?
A nugget log.
Can I stack them? I mean, I don't know. It just depends, Sterling. I don't know.
I'm just saying, if they were like, hey, come down and eat some nugget logs.
If I could stack them and drench them, I'd probably eat them.
You drenching motherfucker. Heather, talk about this movie.
Okay, so all right, well, I don't know if I'm going to be the only one that feels this way, but like I hate to be that person, but this wasn't really my favorite. I can't really quite put my finger on like the exact thing that's missing for me, but something was just missing. And I think Osgood Perkins always does like interesting movie concepts and he makes them look cool. But this one just didn't really hit for me as like an overall success of a movie. It wasn't a terrible movie, but it's just not a necessarily good one either. Like I don't know. And it's weird for me because the interesting thing with Osgood Perkins is I find his style of movie making really cool and intriguing. But none of the stories of the films ever grab me fully. I don't know. But, and like, to be fair, I've seen like 3 of his movies. I've seen Longlegs, I've seen this one, and I've seen Hansel and Gretel and Hansel, whichever one it is. Those are the only ones I've seen.
Gretel first.
Yeah,
Yes.
Gretel first.
Gretel and Hansel. Those are the only ones I've seen. So it's not like I've seen his entire catalog of movies, but none of those scream great movies to me. But you also can't deny that he does have a unique style. And even though I've never really like fully loved his films yet, for some reason, I just like, I'm still always interested to see what he's going to do. And I just think that he does have like a massive potential, but just hasn't quite hit it for me personally yet. I know that there's people who feel very differently, especially about Longlegs. There's some people who love Longlegs, but just for me, he's just kind of, his movies in general are just kind of okay with the potential to have great movies if he did something a little different with his stories to me. But that being said, this movie isn't really different as far as like the style and the way it looks. It's very cool shots, lots of good and gory kills. And there are some moments when like there's some dark humor that lends really well to this. However, something about it makes me feel like they were kind of trying too hard to make this one funny. And sadly, I just didn't really care enough about the characters to be really invested in what was happening. Yeah, just some of those funny moments didn't hit. Some of the sentimental moments didn't really hit. So it was just, maybe that's what the missing ingredient was for me. I'm still trying to quite figure out what it was, but I think probably some of my, like, I guess my bigger complaint with the movie is the dialogue for me. At some point, I was just like, these characters feel kind of weird. Granted, it's just very possible that was on purpose, given like the nature of the film being dark and kind of a dark comedy in some ways. But unfortunately, I just don't think that it was executed in a way, for me at least, that, I mean, where my first thought is, oh, the dialogue of what they're doing is on purpose for this. You know, it's bad on purpose. So I don't know. That's just sort of my takeaway with it and how I feel about it. Like, I don't know. And our lead guy, Theo James, he's kind of, I don't really think he has like a super strong presence as like a lead. I don't think he's a bad actor. I just don't think he has like a very specific presence that grabs you, for me personally. So there wasn't really much he was bringing to the role that made me like, I am invested in who this character is. So I think that's sort of the unfortunate thing of lending itself to my not thinking that it was as good as I wanted it to be. Tatiana Maslany is in this and she's great, but the way that her character is just kind of, she's not, it's definitely just not her best because of the nature of who her character is in this. But yeah, it's one of those movies where everything is just kind of all right and it's there and it's happening. But for me, this one was really just not, it was not a good movie, but it wasn't a bad movie. It's a movie that could have been good, had potential to be good, but for me, it fell short.
Jastin, what about you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's all right. You know, I'm not, wasn't overly impressed with it. Probably not as low on it as you though, Heather. I thought it was decent. You know what I mean? I wasn't, but I didn't walk out overly excited about it. It does some things in this movie, and it does some themes in this movie better than some previous movies that we've actually looked at. It does the generational trauma thing better than Wolfman. And it keeps
Jastin, are you
a
saying
more
that they just went,
consistent
hey,
tone
don't
than
kill somebody?
Pooh, Blood, and Honey. Huh?
Are you saying that by better at generational trauma, they just weren't like, hey, just don't kill somebody to get over it?
Yeah, that too. But it's funny because some of the things we said that Wolfman movie should have done, they actually did do here. You know, you have a son and a father, and it's them going through it. You know what I mean? And then there's a brother, but that's good placement. Instead of a wife, like in the Wolfman, we have a brother, but that's good placement because we see how it's affecting the brother as well. So it does that better than than that movie. And it is a horror comedy, and and the comedy, I think, really where you think this movie is good and bad is based on if you're feeling the comedy of it, because it's a very cynical, it's a cynical, dark comedy type of movie, and that tone is pretty consistent throughout. You know, it's a movie that knows what it is, and I like that more than I don't like it. It knew what this was. This is a monkey that you wind up and it's killing people. So obviously it couldn't be too serious. It couldn't take itself seriously or anything like that. And I don't think it does. I think right away it sets a tone where you see this crazy, without putting too many details, you see this crazy kill. And then the very next scene is we see a preacher. And based on that preacher's delivery, that pretty much is consistent with what you get with this movie. We get some crazy blood stuff, and then we try to deliver with some funny, dark comedy stuff. And it pretty much keeps that tone throughout, whether characters are having conversations or whether the monkey is doing some killing or whatever the case may be. It pretty much keeps, I think, a consistent dark comedy tone. There or like I said, that cynical kind of sarcasm that it has. And that is throughout. That is in every conversation. It's in everything that happens with the characters and stuff like that. And you can kind of see that throughout. So I liked the better play of the themes here. And I like the consistent tone that it had with its comedy style. It went all in on that and said, if you like it, then you'll like this movie. If you don't, then I could understand why you're not feeling it. The kind of comedy that this is just not for everybody. Other than that, I think the movie plays fairly simple. Nothing happens that was a big shock or a surprise, or nothing happens that I think was necessarily great, but nothing happened that I thought was terrible and awful either. And ultimately, it just kind of winds up being a simple story about this monkey that kills people. But I kind of like what the monkey represents. I like the allegory of it. I think it played into the themes well. And overall, I think the movie gets where it needs to go. So, yeah, I think it was at least good enough for me to say it was all right, but nothing spectacular from the movie.
I kind of more or less agree with both of you. This is probably my favorite Osgood Perkins movie. But also, it's just all right. Like, I agree with you, Jastin. I think so much of this movie hinges on the humor. And if you're not into that kind of humor, this movie's going to fall really flat to you really fast.
Yeah.
And
it's a very cynical, like, you know what I'm talking about. It's that cynical sarcasm shit, and that's not everybody's comedy.
I mean, and that's fair. And like, just really quick, like, because an example I thought of was like Ready or Not, right? Like, I feel like that's sort of a dark comedy, like sort of dark humor type of movie as well. But for some reason, like, I just think that worked. Like, it's not necessarily not my type of humor, because like, I thought Ready or Not was really good. You know what I mean? But I think it just kind of, maybe it's the way that they do that type of humor in this movie setting is what it was for me. But I do get what you mean. Like, if you're not into the humor of this movie, you're just not really going to be feeling this movie.
yeah. And I think with that can lead to some uneasiness with this movie, because you're either going to dig it or you're going to not. And so it kind of makes it to where it's going to be a little 50-50. It's going to be a little bit of, yeah, I like this movie, or somebody's going to be like, yeah, I hated this movie, or yeah, is it all right? It's going to be all over the place with how people view this movie, because it hinges so much on the humor. And I think if you're going, just where you fall with that is really going to decide how much overall with the film you enjoy it, don't enjoy it, whatever. And I mean, I liked some of the jokes. I didn't like some of the jokes. I thought, as far as death scenes go, I actually think this was really fun. When it comes to just pure people dying on screen mayhem, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that was the best part.
Yeah, me too. And that's kind of what this is. Can you laugh at all the horrible shit that is happening to people? It's kind of one of those movies, man. I think it is. Like it's the blessing and the curse of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, can you laugh at other people's horrible misfortune? Can you laugh at people dying through most of the time no fault of their own? And it's one of those interesting things like that. And I mean, for overall, like, there are things I really liked. I kind of see what you're saying, Heather, with what's his name, Theo James. Not the strongest lead to put your movie on his back, but I think that the other characters that are just sparsed or, throughout the movie, or that are, I kind of liked the kid versions of them more than I liked the adult versions of them. Even though the aspects of the kid's story I hated more than I did the adult stuff. That's why it's such a mixed bag. The bullying scenes in this movie when they're kids are the most Stephen King bullying scenes you have ever Stephen King'd in a movie.
Literally an exact point I was going to make. Yes, for sure.
Just some of the most Stephen King bullies that have ever existed in film or book, anything. And then, so it's like that, we've dealt with that for decades now. The Stephen King bully character, like that's a trope at this point. And so, was kind of tired of that shit. But then, like, I liked the kids' dynamics a little better. I liked their personalities a little better and that stuff. So I liked that part of the movie, but hated the bullying scenes. And then, you get to the adults, and I don't really like Theo James, but there's no bullies. So that evened out for me. And I'm just like, man, it's like a going both ways type of situation with this stuff. And it's not, and as much as it's kind of a tale of two movies, it's also not. Because this does almost break itself in half. It's almost like there are two acts of this movie. It's that have their own little mini act 1, 2, 3 within them. But they are not completely disjointed. You know what I mean? It's almost like we get the story and the sequel just kind of combined into one movie. It's like it's two short stories that are part 1 and part 2 that all have their own acts within them. In this, because there's the kid section and the adult section, which also, what in the Stephen King is that? Again, you got to tell half the story from the kids and half the story from the adults. And the funny thing is that's not what the Stephen King story is. The Stephen King story is a very short story. And not this. And so, like, I think Osgood Perkins, what he did in expanding this into a full-length movie, just went, hey, let's do all the Stephen King tropes. So, but I'll say this. It's not as bad as some of the other short stories that Stephen King has done that were made into movies. Do you guys remember Lawnmower Man?
Vaguely.
There's a reason why Stephen King sued to get his name taken off that movie.
Oh.
Yeah. The Stephen King short story to the Lawnmower Man really is like, a guy's like, hey, can I come mow your lawn? And this guy's like, yeah, I'll pay you to mow my lawn. And then he's like, do, and looks out his window, like, while making a sandwich or doing the dishes or something. And he sees the guy's like crawling on his hands and knees and like chewing the grass. And he's like, what the fuck? And then like goes out there and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And it turns out he's a goat man because he's actually the devil. And then he kills him.
Okay.
That's a very short synopsis of the short story of the Lawnmower Man.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how I didn't
Got
say
it.
virtual reality anywhere in there.
Right.
I was about to say, where does the VR come in? I'm not seeing it.
No one knows. Yeah. So this could have been the Lawnmower Man, and it wasn't that. So, there's points for that. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. This movie's like weirdly just, Matthew McConaughey's its way into our whole thing. It's just all right. Recommendations and scores?
Sure.
Yep.
Recommendations and score.
I should have had you do that, Heather. I know you do a better Matthew McConaughey impersonation than me. Can you do that for us? Can you get us a good Matthew McConaughey in there?
All right.
She actually tried it. That was funny. You want to do it, Jastin?
I'm better at Owen Wilson.
No, I'm no good at that.
Let's see. What do you mean you're better at Owen Wilson? Just going, wow.
Yeah, she is better at that. That was good.
I told you.
Because it's one word. And
This is my normal voice. Wow. But it makes me a great impersonator of Owen Wilson.
See, that's probably the funny thing that like Heather had. She just said wow once, and she was like, "Oh my god, it sounded just like Owen Wilson." People are gonna make fun of me for how I say wow, and everybody just looks at her and goes, "Wow, that's just an amazing Owen Wilson impression." And she's like, "Yep, yes, it is. That was not me just saying wow."
That was me doing an impression every time I say wow. Yes, it is.
I think it'd just be funny if like people like Heather's at her 20-year high school reunion, and she just goes wow, and everybody's like, "Man, Heather, after 20 years, you still just got it every time."
You're the most successful person that came out of this school.
That Owen Wilson impression. Anyway, Jastin, what you got? What's your recommendation and score?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, I guess. I think if I'll recommend it. I think that if you like those kind of like dark comedy movies, and you know what they are, where they don't take themselves too seriously. They have kind of a very, like I said, it's got a very like cynical tone and sarcastic kind of humor. You're kind of laughing at horrible shit that's happening to people, but the way that it's shot and the way that it's played is supposed to be to get you to laugh at it. And I really think if you like that kind of stuff, I could see you really digging this movie. I could see you kind of understanding it, and I could see you feeling this movie. And like we said, the killing and all of the horror stuff, like the killing and what the monkey is doing, a lot of that stuff is fun stuff. But a lot of it is fun because even though it's horrible shit happening, it's played for laughs. But I think if and this movie really, like we all have said, I think, really goes all in on that comedic tone and style. So if you like that, then I think you'll like the whole thing. You'll get through it all and you'll like the whole thing. If it's not your cup of tea, or if you're somebody where it has to be delivered a certain way, because, comedy is so subjective. Like, not everybody is going to like it, even if they like the same kind of comedy. They may not like it delivered quite like this. So, I do think it takes a type of person to love this. And that might be the difference between loving and just liking and thinking it's okay, and then somebody not liking it at all. But I will give the movie some credit for sticking to its guns and not being a mixed bag, not trying to do too many damn things. We've had a lot of movies come on here, and I was like, what the hell is this movie trying to be? It's trying to be everything because it's afraid to be something. This movie wasn't afraid to be what it was. It knew what it was. It kept that tone throughout, and it told the story the way that it wanted to tell it. So I will at least give it credit for that. And like I said, some of the allegories and some of the things that it had in there, I don't think the story really is that bad. Though I see what you're talking about with some of the Stephen King tropes, but You know, if you want to see it because you're a Stephen King fan, you might like that shit too. You know what I mean? It's just who are you and who's watching the film? But it does have some flaws. There are some things I think that probably it could have been better just as far as certain decisions made. But hey, the movie's not long. It's about 90 something minutes. It's not that long. It's in and it's out. I mean, I don't, there's no reason for me to really hate on this movie. So yeah, I'll go ahead and give it a recommendation. And I think as far as the score, 68. Hand-me-down monkeys that teach you about life out of 100.
Heather, what about you?
I mean, I'm personally pretty indifferent to this movie, but I do recognize that there is an audience for it. Like, there is an audience of people that would love this, and that the humor hits better with, that the movie itself hits better with. So I can't just be like, no, it's terrible, nobody should ever watch it. Like, it, because it's not a terrible movie. It's a decent movie that I just personally didn't like. It wasn't my favorite, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it's not a bad movie, just not something that I specifically liked, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, if you know like what your type of horror film is, yes, watch this if it is that, because you will probably enjoy it. I'm personally indifferent, but sure, if you know this is your type of movie, then it's definitely your type of movie. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely in that lane for some people. So if it is, yes, I would recommend it. And there are some really, positive things about it, especially like the kills and the way the movie looks. Things like that are very good about this movie. And because of that, it's a little bit more than like a midpoint for me. So I'm going to give it 55 cynical pep talks by your mom at a funeral out of 100.
I mean, yeah, I'd recommend it, just depending on the person. If you can laugh at something like this, yeah, watch it. However you want. In theaters, on streaming, through somebody's window. I don't know. That's creepy. Don't do that. But just, yeah, watch it. If somebody's squeamish, I might not recommend this movie. It's really gory, but in like a really fun way. I mean, it's kind of, and we'll see what happens with Final Destination Bloodlines, but it's a very Final Destination-esque movie with the just murdering people for laughs, and just a bunch of creative ways of killing people. But yeah, I'd recommend it. It's not horrendous. It's also just not fantastic. And, is it a bad time? No. Is it a great time? No. Is it a time? Mostly. It's mostly a time. With all that, I'll give it a 61. 61 Rube Goldberg deaths out of 100. So that puts the CineScore of this movie 61.
Okay.
We literally gave it the same exact score as Captain America 4. We literally almost gave this the exact same score as Captain America 4, right down to our individual scores. Heather, you gave both movies a 55. Jastin's the only one that had any difference, where you gave Captain America a 67 and you gave this a 68. And I gave both of them a 61. I did not realize that until I was looking at my little notepad doc, and they're right next to each other. And I'm like, we literally pretty much gave everything the exact same.
That's crazy.
So,
Interesting.
Yeah. Spoilers?
Yep.
Yep.
Spoilers.
Yeah, Tatiana Maslany was really great. I liked her. I always like her, though. I always like her. I mean, outside of that, yeah, this movie is just a bunch of shit that happens between people dying. And that's sometimes what I failed to really attach on to, was the shit that happened between people dying. But there was some fun deaths. Like that woman that's just like diving into the pool at the same time that it gets like electrocuted, and she just explodes the second she touches the pool, or the real estate lady that just opens the door and just gets shotgunned into 90 million pieces. Those are pretty funny.
Yeah, especially when the kid was like, everything good up there? Like, just didn't realize what was happening, really.
Or even Osgood Perkins, how he had himself stomped into oatmeal.
I think he had the most gory death. And so in that regard, it's almost like maybe you shine as the character in this movie. Like you're a shining character in this. Because it was also one of the funniest parts too. Go ahead.
Which is funny because you don't see him die. You just see his body get poured out of a sleeping bag.
Yeah, it's like and then like the flashback of what happened, but also just like the cut of that was funny, where like the monkey plays or whatever, and then it cuts to a picture of Osgood's character like at the funeral. Like it was a funny moment of like the whole thing about him dying was just really funny.
I mean, and that's, I don't know, to me that was partially the biggest problem with this movie, is I cared very little about what was happening in this movie outside of people dying. Like, there's a character in this movie that gets obsessed with the monkey because it reminds him of his dad, I guess. And I don't know, I just thought that was all really dumb. But when he dies by having a bunch of bees go down his throat, that's kind of funny. You know, so I don't know. It's a little bit of both. I'm really kind of struggling also. It's been so long since I've seen this movie. I've watched several movies in the theaters since we watched this. And I'm like, I'm struggling a little bit to remember this movie to a specific degree, I should say. I mean, also, I guess one thing that does bother me, though, is there is a wild inconsistency with the monkey. Because sometimes you have to wind him up and he's got to play a drum beat for somebody to die. Then there's other times where you can wind him up, he cannot play a drum beat, save that drum beat, travel mysteriously with you to a hibachi restaurant, and play a drum beat while you're in the restaurant and kill your babysitter. But then there are other times when he'll sit there and play a bunch of drum beats, and it takes like 5 hours for people to start dying from it. So I wish there was some more consistency with stuff, because like when they're leaving that town at the end, there are people that are still dying at that point. And I'm like, those drum beats happened like an hour ago. Why are you still like, why are new deaths still happening from this? But also then it's kind of funny too. Like when that school bus is like, yeah, and then they all get decapitated. I mean, it's funny. But then also like, I don't know what the rules are. They're all over the place. And also, if you can take the key, just take the key out. And also, I wish we'd learned what happened to their dad. Because we saw the dad flamethrower it, but we never saw him die. Why did he have to die off camera? Why couldn't we watch him die?
That's true.
Especially because it was a little bonus Adam Scott. Anyway. Jastin, what you got?
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've seen this movie also. So, um some of the details are a little murky. But yeah, I too liked She-Hulk. Uh Tatiana was tight in this. I thought that she was a good mother, and just hearing the way that she would talk to the children and all the stuff about how, the only certainty is death and all of that kind of stuff. She was very good in this. But I think right away the film sets its tone with that scene with Adam Scott, and he's trying to get rid of this monkey and everything, and the guy won't the pawn guy won't pawn it for him, and all of that happens with that kill and everything. And then immediately after you see a scene like that, we cut to someone's death, and then there's this preacher, and he's like, oh fuck, what was I talking about? The preacher's like kind of talking. So I think right away they kind of set the tone that, okay, like we're supposed to be at this funeral. It's supposed to be this serious thing. And you got this preacher just kind of being like, well, I mean, shit, he died, like people die. So like, I mean, there was kind of this, so there was kind of like that sort of cynical, dark, humorous tone throughout. And I think that it sets that. And I just like the consistency to have that constantly throughout the movie, whether it was Tatiana, the mother, talking to the two brothers or any of those things. And the monkey, I get what you're saying about the monkey being kind of fun. And I think that because and I like the randomness of it because of the allegory and what the monkey represented. Like I kind of like the idea that it winds up, and once it plays or gets in its mind, and obviously it was somewhat of a living being. I mean, when you cut it, it bleeds, and so it's some sort of demon soul living something. There's something living about it. But what I liked about it was that it plays or whatever, and you don't know who the victim's going to be. You don't know how it's going to concoct this kill. It's just going to kill, and it's just going to be random. And there's no rhyme or reason. Hal told us there's no rhyme or reason to it all at all. It's just, people are dying. And he said a thing is, so it basically it is kind of like how life is, and life can be like that. Sometimes people just die, man, and there is no rhyme or reason to why some of these things happen. We don't always know the ins and outs of that or mechanics of that, or it can always explain the randomness sometimes of life and death. So I kind of like that. I kind of like how, and I think it made things fun because you never really knew how someone was going to die. So anytime the monkey was wound up or anytime the monkey was playing, it was a guessing game of, okay, who's going to get it next and how are they going to get it? So I kind of like that. I kind of like that these characters couldn't control it. And I think that that's kind of, this whole thing to me is kind of like an allegory for death. Obviously there was the generational thing, but essentially you got this monkey that sort of just represents death, right? And the impending doom of it. You can't control it. You can't alter it. You can't run from it. It's constantly there. It's going to be there. And ultimately the best thing to do is accept it, right? You got to accept that it is an essential part of what you and what is there. And that's ultimately where the characters arrive. That's ultimately what the monkey represents. So the whole movie, you've got this person, and I like the connection that Hal had with his son because he only saw him once a year. And he felt like by distancing himself, he wouldn't pass on this thing, this monkey that was a part of his family and everything. So he was kind of thinking, but he loves his son and is on the brink of losing him. But I got the dynamic of, if I stay away or if I'm not around as much, then maybe this won't be a part of his life like it is mine. But I kind of like that journey that him and his son took, and how trying to deal with this was bringing them closer together and everything like that, and trying to counter the monkey and everything. All this ordeal brought him closer to his son. So I kind of like that story that the movie told with it. He also plays his brother, and I also liked kind of the brother and sort of what and how this affected him, and wanting to control it, and thinking that and how his life was altered as a result of all of this. So I thought that all of that pretty much worked. And by the end of the movie, they don't destroy the monkey. They don't get rid of the monkey. They accept the monkey, And I think that overall, that is not a bad lesson. That is not a bad path for these characters to go. So all of that I was pretty much cool with. I think really just when it comes to flaws, and I don't know, I think just a lot of it is just the comedy stuff. The Elijah Wood cameo it was kind of cool seeing Elijah Wood. It was interesting, but I don't think that the comedy of that hit like they thought it was. I was happy to see him, but I don't know. I think that few scenes that he got, it was played almost as if they thought that was like, oh yeah, this is great humor and you're going to love that, and then we can move on to something else. But I felt like, that was a character probably that needed more time and more development and stuff for us to care or to get or to really like feel that comedy. I don't think it got to where it needed to go because there was just a lack of him, So it was kind of one of those things. I somewhat appreciated the idea of that character and what Elijah Wood was doing, but I don't think there was enough of him to earn the hilarity that I thought that they felt like they earned in some of those scenes. So, that might have been a bit of a misfire. And I really think that sometimes the jokes just, or mixing the funny with the kill and what's happening, sometimes the kill was so incredibly gory and over the top that trying to get like that sort of, I guess that sarcasm or like that cynical kind of laugh out of it, sometimes it was so over the top, I couldn't appreciate the humor of it. And then or I guess it was so like gory that it really didn't come off like it was so gory that it lost the fun of it. And then other times it was fun, but I felt like the kill probably could have been gorier. So there was this kind of weird seesaw that I was playing with it sometimes, where sometimes I was like, I think you could have just let that be a kill, and that could have just been like a serious one. And then there are times where it was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe this was too ha-ha. I think that could have been, we could have toned it down a little less. So ultimately, even though I think the movie's okay, I don't think it ever found that perfect balance with that. Just with the gory over the top stuff and mixing it with the funny stuff. There was just something about the flow that wasn't always there. And it was like when it hit, it really hit. And when it didn't, it just didn't. So that's kind of where I was with it. It was a little back and forth. So even though for the most part, I was entertained and I was having an okay time, the themes and the things just never quite perfectly mixed to where I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm having a great time. It just ranged from I'm having an okay time to a decent time, maybe a couple of times where it was good, but it never really got to that great point to me. And ultimately, that's where I landed with it. It was solid. It was okay. I liked some of the themes, but none of these themes are like, it's not like there was this great twist or it's smart and makes you think afterwards. We've seen so many movies about like this with the allegories of death and the generational stuff and stuff like that. I guess I could say I do like that this chose to, instead of killing the generational thing and stuff, I do like the idea of accepting it, knowing it's there. And we deal with it together as a family. We deal with it. We know it's there. We acknowledge it's there. We don't run from it. We accept and we deal together. I think that's good. So, yeah. So overall, not overly impressed with it, but it does okay for itself, I guess, more than it didn't.
Heather, what about you?
Yeah, no, I think you do make some interesting points with that. I think really, I think my biggest things with this were, and you said that you liked the relationship between the father and the son. And I guess I think that they maybe should have tried to build that relationship between Hal and his son a little bit better. I know that it was purposely estranged and all of this, they only see each other once a year, but it just kind of made it hard to root for them to get along when a lot of the times it just felt like Hal was really he wasn't even trying. Yes, he was trying to distance himself and probably wasn't trying because he's I don't want to get close to him because I want to keep him safe, which is totally understandable motive to not really try with your kid. But I just feel even though he knew he didn't have much time left with him, he was still doing that. So it was kind of in general, I get it. You don't want to get too emotionally attached, but there was just this whole thing about, oh, I'm not going to see you after this because Elijah Wood is going to be your dad and whatever. It was a last sort of chance to kind of have anything, kind of like a goodbye or a send off or whatever it was. And I just feel if that was really what they knew it was, he could have at least in that time they had tried a little bit more to be I know I haven't always been there, but let's enjoy this while we can, but actually trying to open up to him. And I think that's what was bothering me about it is he wasn't even trying to open up even a little bit with his son, who he was never going to see again. So, and I know, again, the motive being, I don't want to get too close and all of that, but, I'm wanting to protect his son. But I just think that they could have added more layer and dynamic to that relationship, because the moments when they're somewhat just having casual conversations and whatever is good, or when they're in the car and he's joking with him a little bit, you know what I mean, before they go into the house. That's a good moment. Those are good moments between them. And I think that they should have just done a little bit more of that. And even at the end of the movie, when they're driving back, and those were the better parts of their relationship because it doesn't feel really established. And again, this is leaning more on a comedy sort of side. So even when they have sentimental moments in this movie, it is very quickly followed by a funny death or a funny something that kind of, takes away the sentimental part of it on purpose. But I just think it makes us not really invest in the characters because like you guys were saying, the deaths were the more interesting part. Those were the things that I was okay, what's the next death going to be and what is it going to be? That was what I was more concerned with in this movie than okay, are they going to fix their relationship? Oh no, I hope the main character doesn't die. That wasn't really ever my mindset with it because you don't really get a lot of these characters. The most you really get is understanding our lead brothers and why they have such an attachment to their mom. That's really the only sort of genuine feel that you kind of get from the relationships. But yeah, so I don't know. I would have wanted more from that dynamic because you could see that there were little slivers of good like dynamic between them. They just didn't lean into it enough, is what I think. And also, yeah, like I was saying, the Stephen King bullying was just absurd with this. And you're right. I think maybe Osgood did just want to lean into, well, this is Stephen King's short story, right? This is what he would do if it was a full movie. Because it just like 100% leaned fully into like that horrible bullying. And I think what my biggest problem with it, aside from the fact that you're seeing this horrible bullying, is like, it was such unnecessary. It's always unnecessary. But like in this movie, it's like the way that they try to build up these bullies is so weird to me. It's like it's a group of like girls just going up to him for no reason other than just the brother told them something stupid, and like the entire school of girls is just like, let's bully him now. It was just weird. Like, what is that? And just the motivation for the bullying being that the other brother was just such a douchebag, you know, like like, hey guys, bully my brother. Like, it just was, the setup for the bullying was strange to me. So yeah, I don't know. It was just very over the top bullying for something that was like, the setup it wasn't a good payoff for the setup they did for it. But, and also that side character, the one that was obsessed with the monkey, what was his name? Ricky, I think.
Yeah,
I think
the
it was Ricky.
guy who reminded him of his dad.
Yes. Which, fun fact, that guy is the guy that played the new villain in the like, what is it? Halloween Ends, the last one that was terrible with where they like made it about the guy who was possessed by Michael Myers at the end.
Yeah.
It's that guy. That's the same guy. I found that and I was like, what are you doing, my guy? What is this? Because first of all, I didn't, his wig or haircut or whatever was awful. I'm very sorry. It just was so bad. But like, I wasn't a fan of his character. I don't feel like that added anything to the rest of the story. It felt like such a side plot that they pulled into the main plot. And like, I don't know. It was just it was a very strange character to be. And like, I don't know if they just needed him in there for the plot device of getting the brother and the son to the other brother. I don't know what they needed him for. I thought that it was going to end up being like, oh, what if that's the other brother's kid that he just abandoned or something? And this kid's been looking for him or something, like some kind of connection like that to why Ricky is so invested in this monkey, but also invested in like getting to, what was his name? Not Hal, but the other brother, you know, like, why was he so invested in that? And it would have made more sense if there was a connection between them, but he's just like, no, this is a random guy that has a monkey that I want because the monkey reminds me of my dad. It just, I don't know. They're just, I don't feel like they set up a lot of these plot lines very well. There are glimpses of like seeing why it would play out well if they were more fleshed out characters. But for me, that character was just very like, what is he doing here? What is he doing in this story? Yeah, I don't know. But like, yeah, and I think there was a humor moment you mentioned, Jastin, that was like, yeah, that's exactly it. Oh yeah, the Elijah Wood thing. It is stuff like that where you're like, oh no, they really were trying to make these certain parts funny. And it just fell flat. You know what I mean? Like, that's really a big part of it. Like, some of it was really amusing. Some of it was just like, what is this? Because there was a line at the end too, with when the two brothers meet up and he's like explaining like, hey, I lost my mom too. Right. There was like that sentimental moment and then they abruptly change it with the tone. because the one brother says something like, "Oh, I didn't think about that it's also your mom because, you're my brother and we're twins." Or he says something like that. And you're like, why was this dialogue needed out loud? This is just a very weird thing to say in this moment. And you could tell, like, I feel like they were trying to lean into like, oh, like, the guy's just so dumb. He didn't realize that. But it just plays as very superficial dialogue in the movie. And I'm like, we could have done better here, guys. We really could have done better in this particular scene with that. But I will say it was kind of funny where they're like, yeah, come with us. Let's, be a family. And then immediately he gets his head cut off. I did think that was like a funny timing for that type of thing. But yeah, just their whole sentimental moment. And then he tries to like, I don't know, just the way that a lot of the dialogue is said in this movie was like, why are we saying it like this? I don't understand what's going on. So yeah, again, I think that is the biggest part of why I felt like something was missing, because a lot of those humor moments did not hit for me the way I think they wanted it to. So yeah. And then my only other thing is like with the monkey and like the whole thing about who the monkey kills, right? Like, I guess I feel like maybe I would have liked the story more if the monkey specifically was targeting certain people, not just like, oh, it's at random. Like, okay, he belongs to this family. So he's targeting anybody who tries to go against this family in any sort of way. Anybody who's mean to the boys, anybody who's something like that, I feel like maybe would have been a better tie-in for what the monkey is doing. And then it's like, oh, if it gets passed on to another family or whatever it is, then it becomes loyal to that family and protects that family in a way by targeting and killing people that might try to be against this family for some reason. I don't know why. I just feel like that for me would have played better as like a purpose for why the monkey's doing what the monkey's doing.
The only reason why, to me, that doesn't work is because that gets rid of the whole point of it, which is death is random. You have no control over death.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It gets rid of that. So,
like,
okay.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And like, because that's the lesson that the brother needs to learn is he was killing hundreds and hundreds of people just to kill his brother, just because he wanted his brother dead. And it's like the futility of, if you're not going to actively just go murder your brother, you've got no control over their death. Like, death's random. Even when you can make a death happen, it's the whole, it's the monkey paw situation from other stories. It's the catch of the rule. It's, you might want somebody to die and you're actively going to turn the thing to kill someone. But just wanting somebody to die isn't going to do that. And that, he wanted to kill his brother and he killed his mom.
Right.
And that's the whole point of it, is that it is random and death is random. Death's not necessarily random, but nobody knows when death's going to happen outside of, instances where you kill people.
Yeah. And I do get that. And that is fair that would be taken away if it was like, oh, I'm protecting this family or whatever. But like, I don't know, maybe that is part of it, is just like, even though that was the point of the monkey, I don't know, there was a quality of something about it that just kind of fell a little bit flat. And I guess my head is just trying to piece together what would have made me feel like it didn't fall flat. So I'm just like trying to arrange it of like, well, if they did it this way, would that have played better? But I guess you're right. Like if it did it that way, it would take out the point of him being random with it. So never mind. But yeah, that's all I have.
Fair enough. You guys got any more monkey thoughts?
No,
I'm good.
Fair enough. An all right review for an all right movie. You guys want a Paddington? You want to go to Peru?
might as well.
Yeah.
Once again, guys, we will have time codes in this description to allow you to jump around in this part. Say you didn't watch The Monkey, but you did watch this, you can jump straight to Paddington, which I hope you'd know already because you're listening to the Paddington section right now. So here we go. Paddington in Peru. Let's start with our resident Paddington expert. Me. I've seen these movies more than you guys. This one is rough for me because Paddington 1's all right. I know Jastin's all, ooh, Nicole Kidman, whatever. She was a horrible person. Jastin just hates Paddington, apparently, and wants a little bear cub to die. I don't know. Jastin's weird for that. And then you get Paddington 2, which is just damn near a perfect movie. And then you get into this one. That to me is once again just all right. I think this movie had the impossible challenge of following Paddington 2 without the director, without the same person playing the mom, which the woman that replaced her is also fantastic. I love her and stuff too, but it's this weird situation of you're replacing the mom character, you're replacing the director, and you're trying to do a sequel to a near perfect movie. And how do you actually succeed completely at that? And the answer is just make an all right movie. It doesn't really tarnish anything. It's just a slightly weaker end to the Paddington trilogy, but not bad. This movie is actually, I think it's actually pretty good. It's just, like I said, when you're just pretty good coming after Paddington 2, that's a big, big problem. And also the problem is, too, it's so long ago. Paddington 2 came out so long ago. Paddington 2 came out when I was still married and not separated. I was actively married when Paddington 2 came out, and I have since separated and finalized a divorce through a pandemic since Paddington 2 came out, and then we got Paddington 3. It just has some challenges. Some of it, I think, is its own fault, and some of it is just the monumental task it was given to try to succeed at. And ultimately, when it's all said and done, it's just a pretty all right movie. Not mad I watched it. I'm also just not going to run around proclaiming its greatness like I did the last one. But I'll proclaim its pretty goodness. Jastin, what about you?
Yeah, I might be in a similar camp. I mean, I think it's pretty good, but I don't think it's as good as the first or second movie. So I'm guessing that camp. And the thing is that, like, I get the directing changes and Sally Hawkins not being back, and which was a complete surprise to me because I didn't do any reading of who the casting was or anything, and I was like, where's Sally Hawkins? And then, like, I looked up that she decided not to do this movie and said, I think my time for it has come, and, give another actress a chance, blah, blah, blah. It was nothing controversial about it. She just decided not to come back. And I was like, okay. Okay. All right. So I guess she's the original Mrs. Brown is not in this. And I think that, the thing about by the time you get to a third movie in any franchise, the thing is that, or any time, or just like with the Marvel movies, just like with anything, Toy Story, although Toy Story is kind of an anomaly how it just continues to produce quality films, but sometimes with these movies, you start detecting patterns and you start detecting formulas. And I think because the second movie was so good, it sort of created. I think this movie had the issue of on one end trying to separate itself from that movie and still be a quality film on its own. But at the same time, when people tout a movie as near perfect, there's also the temptation to copy it in a lot of ways. There's also the temptation to at least use the formula as a blueprint. And there are definitely things in this movie where you're like, okay, well, this was in the second movie, but we're just doing it a little differently. Or this character, this antagonist is similar to the antagonist in the second movie, but it's just done in a little different way. Even the end and Paddington, but well, I'll say this first, even at the end, the ending brings up a scenario that we've seen many times before. You know, will the odd family member go where he's from or where he belongs, or he or she go where she's from or where she belongs? You know, that choice. That choice is a choice we've seen in a lot of other movies and stuff like that. So it doesn't escape some of the tropes and some of the patterns that I detected from the second movie that it couldn't escape from. But this cast is such a charming cast. They're good actors. These are really good actors. They understand these characters. They play these characters well. The voice acting for Paddington is great. The movie still looks great. And even with all of that stuff, you still detect the heart of it, and you still detect the charm of it. And ultimately, that gets it across the finish line. And it's just kind of one of those things you can't be mad at it. You know, it's like that cat is fucking shit up, but the cat looks cute and you can't be mad at it. You know?
That's my whole fucking life, man.
Huh?
That's my whole fucking life.
Exactly, right? So, yeah, you're a cat person. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Or if you're a dog person, dogs be on that bullshit too. You know, sometimes, or whatever you think is cute. You know, maybe we're talking about your boyfriend or girlfriend. They be fucking up. But even when they do, or doing some shit that you can see coming a mile away. But even when they do, they smile at you a certain way or something, and you're like, oh, I just can't be mad at you, even though you're doing some bullshit. So even when this movie was kind of bullshitting, I was, you know, Paddington smiles and hits you with the charm, and you're okay. Man, and ultimately, that's kind of where I fall.
I just think the idea is kind of funny. It's like, man, look at this movie fucking up. And Paddington just eats a marmalade sandwich. And you're like, all right, Paddington, I see you.
Yep, I see you, Paddington.
Exactly.
I see you. Man, this movie getting hella tropey, but no, Paddington. Damn it, Paddington. I can't be mad at you.
You're just like, man, if this movie does one more trope, I'm going to walk out. It does a trope. And you're getting your stuff together and Paddington eats a marmalade sandwich. You're like, all right, yeah, I can stick around, I guess.
Yep. That's kind of what it is. And ultimately, this cast and Paddington charm you to the end. And it hasn't lost that magic, even though some of the magic is dwindling a bit. I will admit it.
Yeah. Heather, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's still good for sure, but it is by far the weakest of the three films. It doesn't have quite the same magic to it, which I think has to do with the nature of like Paddington's journey in this, probably, or a lot to do with that. He has some normal shenanigans, like we were just talking about, but you don't get a lot of Paddington with others in this one as much. And which is, I mean, that's just such a really great, wholesome part of seeing Paddington on his adventures, right? So you get a little bit of it, but just not as much as I would have liked. Um, I also think that the family dynamics we get in this from the two families we follow both could have been done a little bit better. I feel like they also kind of revisit some of the same things that the family is journeying through in this that they have done in their other films a little bit. So we didn't really need that element. Highlight also, Olivia Colman is in this. She makes an appearance in this, and she's always delightful. She added to some of the fun of the film. Antonio Banderas is also in this and adds some fun to it. Although I think his storyline needed to be a little bit better executed. But I like that the overall journey to Peru was personal for Paddington. And I love seeing, his little heartwarming and innocent nature as he goes through some of these things and, talks to some of the people in the film. Because at the end of the day, this is still Paddington, right? Like we were just saying, like, I'm just going to enjoy any time Paddington is on screen because it's Paddington. So it's going to always have that going for it, no matter what else happens in the film. So yeah, overall, I don't think the story was executed in the best way, but it is still a cute film, and we get to see, some silly characters and cute bears. So it still wasn't a terrible time at the movies.
Recommendations and scores?
Yeah.
Yep.
Recommendations and score.
Heather, what you got?
Yeah, I recommend it. I mean, the other two are so great, and this just kind of follows along the same, line, just not quite as closely to the line as the others. But it's still a cute, family-friendly, fun little film, little wholesome, heartwarming story. So, yeah, I do recommend it. I do think it is a good movie. For the Paddington trilogy, it's fine. As a general family movie, it's good, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I recommend it. I think if you like the Paddington movies, then you will, on some level, you will like this, even if it is just, watching Paddington eat some marmalade sandwiches. So, I am going to give it 75 Orange Groves out of 100.
Jastin, what about you? Yeah, it's still pretty good. I can recommend it. I think if you like you said, Heather, if you like the other Paddington movies, you'll like this one. It's just, it
won't be your favorite.
Yeah, but name any movie franchise where, other than apes, where 2 and 3 are damn near close to each other. That's really hard to do. It's not like this is an easy thing to do.
There's a handful of trilogies that truly succeed better than this. And that's Toy Story. I agree with you, Justin, on the Apes trilogy, because it just keeps getting better. Through those first 3, every movie just kind of builds on the last one. And I think up there with just kind of maintaining quality would possibly be How to Train Your Dragon.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
It might not get better and better, but it does a pretty good job of maintaining.
They're all equally about the same amount of good.
Yeah. And you might not agree, Sterling, but I think the Holland Spider-Man trilogy is pretty good.
Hey,
the home trilogy is pretty good.
Give me a few more bad superhero movies, dude. I'll be right there with you. Every bad superhero movie I watch, I end up apologizing to Spider-Man 4 or 3 a little more. So, give me some more bad superheroes. I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, and unfortunately now that Captain America is 4 movies, but when it was 3, you could say Winter Soldier, Civil War. That's not bad. But yeah, it's but either way, it's really hard to do. So, I'm not going to fault this movie too much for not doing something that is almost impossible to do. It's still a really good movie, man. And it's the story is not, it's not a bad story. It's not a bad story. We get to go to, you know, Peru, and we go to the jungles, and we go to all these places, and at least we get Paddington in a new place doing new things and stuff like that. And some of that is a little exciting and everything, and adds something that the other movies didn't have. It's not like there is absolutely nothing here that wasn't in the first two movies, but it's just not as well executed. But I don't think that's any reason to avoid this film, or that somebody would come out of this thinking that, what have they done? This is The Godfather 3 or something like that. I don't think anybody's or Alien 3, or any of the other terrible threes.
Pretty much almost every other 3 out there. Like a Blade 3. I mean, yeah. Most are,
yuck.
Look at Ant-Man 3.
Or Venom, The Last Dance.
Yeah.
Big Venom. You know what I'm saying? Big Venom. But so yeah, it's not any of that. It's not any of those. So yeah, you can go watch it. It's all right. It's good. It's pretty good. We'll give it a 85 suspicious nuns out of 100.
I'm kind of in the middle of you two with that. I think it does have some problems. Like I said, some of it's on its own accord. Some of it is just, like you said, Jastin, trying to rehash the second one. Some of it's just getting in its own way. Some of it's just the impossible fucking mountain it had to climb anyway. But I mean, overall, yeah, I still recommend it. It's still a good time at the movies. It's still a Paddington movie. It might not be Paddington 2, but it's still Paddington. So it still nails that benchmark, which ultimately in the series is the most important benchmark to hit. So hitting that ultimately is what kind of matters. Oh, as far as the score goes, I'm so close to being right in the middle of you two. I just don't know if I could fully commit and give it an 80 though. I'm going to give it a 79. 79. Olivia Colman's letting her hair down out of 100. With all that though, CineScore is still an 80 though. So we always round up on the Cinema Slayers podcast, so it's still an 80 with the CineScore. Spoilers?
Yep.
Spoilers. I mean, with this movie, I think where I really run into a problem, and I think you were dancing around it, Heather, because I think you just didn't want to get into spoilers. Paddington's a little isolated a little too much in this movie at points, whereas when he gets separated from the Brown family in Paddington 2, he's in jail, but you get Brendan Gleeson, you get all those fun characters in the jail, for him to bounce off of and do a Paddington 2 and all that stuff. And it helps fill the gap of the Browns being gone, but showing why Paddington's so great. And in this, it's supposed to technically be him doing that to Antonio Banderas, but they're not completely around each other that whole time in that section. Paddington's just pretty much running away from him the whole time. And so it kind of, it's not as cohesive with that. You don't get that dynamic of Paddington doing a Paddington to him. Whenever he changes his mind and gets rid of the curse and is turned over because Paddington gives him a hard stare, I think it would have been better if Paddington had, just by being around Paddington, he was wavering more already. By just being around him, the Paddington influences was wearing down the curse, and the hard stare is what just finalizes it. I think that would have been a little bit more beneficial to this. Kind of like if they had just gotten lost together. Like, let's just say they had both fallen out of the boat and gotten lost together. And so, but they ended up going on the path. And, Paddington just doesn't know all the stuff that Antonio Banderas knows. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would have played a little better if they were just actually truly on that journey together instead of, being slightly at odds. And then maybe when they get to that temple before, where the whole standoff happens, that's whenever you can still keep that scene because that's whenever Antonio Banderas is like, no, but I gotta. And then they do the whole you can do that whole scene still. I just think they should have been more together leading up to that. And I think that would have, added more of the Paddington magic, which is his influence of just being so good around people that it changes the people around him. I think that would have happened more if they were more uniquely interactive with each other. Outside of that, I don't understand what Haley Atwell was doing in this movie. You have a British woman being a cameo of an American that's just in it for 10 seconds. I just don't understand.
If you have your new movie, just use her.
Just have her in the movie, And then this is a little nitpick. When they're like, oh, purple knee tarantula is so dangerous. If you go to Peru, it's so dangerous. It's going to be in the Dangers of Peru book. So dangerous. I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Tarantulas are not dangerous. Tarantulas are not venomous to people. It's fine. If you wanted it to be scary, it should have been a purple-kneed spider. And that's technically different and would be an issue. But tarantulas are not dangerous. So therefore, Mr. Brown was never in danger. I understand. Even if you are arachnophobic, you're not going to sit there and go, oh, it's a tarantula. I'm no longer scared of it. I am only scared of spiders since I'm an arachnophobic. I get that. I'm not saying that aspect. I'm just saying the book that's like The Dangers of Peru would not list a tarantula because it is not dangerous. That's all my point. Big issue with me. Big. Huge. Heather, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, you like spiders a lot, right? So that's why that's a problem for you.
They're trashing the good name of spiders. Getting tarantulas mixed up with them. Different things.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll take a cue from Sterling and start with the ending. Basically, all I was going to say is I do like that Paddington's decision was to stay with the Browns and that he could just still have like his, tribe come and visit. I think that was a sweet ending. I liked how they did that. The whole thing with El Dorado and the El Dorado gold, that storyline was a slight bit underwhelming because, or I guess the payoff was underwhelming that it was just a bunch of oranges, like really just an orange grove. It was kind of underwhelming, the payoff of that. Like it was, I mean, I like the touch of, Paddington was the key to get in and all of these things. But obviously like, that meant, oh, he could make marmalade with his tribe at the end. Like I understand why it was a thing, but I was just like, oh, okay. Orange groves is what we did with this. Okay. All right. It's a choice, I guess. It was just a little bit underwhelming, but, again,
I think it's because
marmalade.
In the real world, we know so many people have died looking for the city of El Dorado.
Yeah.
Cultures have been murdered for it. People have died. And they're just like, don't worry, guys, it's oranges. And you're like, wow. So many people died for oranges.
Yeah. Like, I guess, I don't know if they wanted us to be like, oh, cool, it's orange groves. I don't know what they expected us to feel like, but yeah, I don't know.
Just think about what is that animated movie El Dorado? Just think about that all with oranges now. It's just all oranges.
Which is funny too, because now I think about like the ending of this movie when they all come in and they're like, we've got oranges, you know, and they're just all holding the oranges to Hugh Grant's character. Anyways, but so the family stuff, the bonding between Hunter, who is Antonio Banderas, and his daughter, I don't really think it was fleshed out the best way. Like, I think like to care more about that relationship, they should have given us a little bit more like tidbits or insight into them having a strong connection. And with the Brown family, I get the concept of like the kids are older and they're kind of in their phase of wanting to do their own thing, but they also don't really flesh that story out well either, because it felt like it was a very sideline plot when it should have been a little bit more upfront, since that I mean, we followed Paddington with this family for so long. Like, it just, I think different choices with all that would have been nice. And I also think, I don't think we needed that plot device of like the mom being like attracted to Antonio Banderas's character, like the little moments of her having that attraction to him. Like, it just didn't really add anything other than like Mr. Brown attempting to be the like manly man in front of his wife. And like, he also spent this movie in the whole mindset of like needing to seize the day and take the risk and all of that. And to me, it's a little too close to revisiting that storyline of him being like the brave hero, right? And yeah, that was just like a huge deal in one of the other films. I don't remember which one at this point. The first one, I think. Yeah, it was the first movie. It just didn't need, like, it didn't feel needed. So maybe that's part of the issue. I don't know. But the plot points for the Browns were all sort of sidelined. And it kind of made them more like backseat characters in this. They were in it a lot, but it just felt like their stories didn't really matter as much. It's just if they had, like, I get that they kind of had to be sidelined a little bit more, but it's just nearly it's not executed well, and I know it is also nearly impossible to, like we were saying earlier, be as good as Paddington 2. And so maybe that's why I feel a little bit more like you felt it more in this film, that they weren't the close connected Browns with Paddington. And I don't know, like after you see that second movie too, like just they had ways to do storylines other than Paddington's better, but they just really didn't do it as well in this movie. So, but yeah, and like, also the reveal of the Reverend Mother kind of being related to Hunter was interesting. Although I think it would have been better if it was like a lost love or something like that, where they were like after the same thing because they had shared stories about this or something like that. But it still at least added a different layer to this movie that, you know, what were they, cousins, I think? Yeah.
Yeah. And the only reason why that they have to be familial is because of the tattoo. They said that all the members of the family had the tattoo. So that's the only reason why they had to be family, is because of the tattoo. Just so you could have the scene of the daughter going, oh, shit. Oh,
yeah. And that's totally fair. But again, I guess personally don't feel like we needed that. Like, she didn't need to have the tattoo. Like, she could have just known Hunter, and you know what I mean? But I get it. You know, I understand. It's just, it would have just been like a more fun storyline if it was like, you know, Reverend Mother? Like, I don't remember what her name was, but like if it was just like, oh, like the love of my life that ran away from me, and now she's trying to get the same thing I am. I just think that would have been like a funny, dramatic thing to do. But yeah, like I do also love that they had the hard stare in this. They had to do it. I mean, I was going to be really upset if they didn't. Like, you had to do that hard stare somewhere in this movie. And it wasn't until the very end. So I was worried. I was like, are they not going to do that in this movie? This is terrible. Why would you do that? But yeah, I won't complain because they did. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I liked the aspect of, you know, obviously he's going there because he wants to save his Aunt Lucy. I understand, like, that's his driving motivation in this, right? But I just don't really, I wanted to like that storyline better too, because that was his Aunt Lucy. Like, I wanted a little bit more sentiment out of it, I guess. But again, it's being a little bit nitpicky just because we know how good these movies can be. So, yeah, again, like, I know that I like pointed out a lot of flaws with it, but again, it's like, it's one of those where when you're in the grouping of the Paddington movies, it's easier to find and compare the flaws. But if you were just looking at it as, oh, it's a fun family movie, right? You're not going to notice all of the flaws in it as much. So that's a sort of the give and take with that type of thing. But yeah, that's all I had.
Jastin, what about you?
Cool. So really, when I look at the movie, like I said, I think most of it is fine. It's just that whenever I felt like we were borrowing things from the other films, it just felt a little more recognizable and blatant in this. Like at the beginning of the movie, we get a clumsy moment with Paddington in the photo booth, which was fine. It was pretty funny, him bumbling all around and taking all those photos and not really understanding. You know, anytime they do that stuff with Paddington, it's cool or whatever, but it just starts very similar to the second film where we have a bumbling moment there, and then we got some voice narration kind of catching us up, telling us what every family member is doing and stuff like that before to set up the tone of the movie. So right away, I'm kind of recognizing these things and going, okay, well, that's exactly the same as the second movie. And you know, you just want things to start. You just wish they would have just maybe had a different idea of how to start. But what they were talking about made sense. You know, the kids are growing up. The household is drifting more apart as the kids are growing up, and so Mrs. Brown felt like they needed to connect more and stuff like that. So you can understand that seemed like a believable concern. I agree with you, Heather. The Mr. Brown thing with him taking the risk, and you got to take a risk and don't be so uptight all the time and stuff like that. It was kind of a similar arc to the whole have a heroic moment or be a hero type of thing, and be brave about something and step out on bravery, and sort of this thing of him struggling to do that, but then finally getting it and everything like that. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It is very similar to what he's done in movies before. So it kind of cheapens it. Like you get, okay, he's got to take risk and everything like that, but it cheapens it a little bit when it feels like an arc that he's had before, or it's in the ballpark of an arc he's had before. So then it just feels like rehashing. And, we're just changing the word slightly. It's a synonym. Like, oh, well, here it's bravery, but here it's being brave enough to take the risk. It's just that kind of sleight of hand where it's not done in a creative enough way for you to recognize it as really being that different from something that you've seen before. And really that's kind of a microcosm for several parts in the movie. The Antonio Banderas character talking to these past ancestors and ghosts because of this curse, and it's weighing on him, but he's talking to these people of the past and stuff like that. But they're more in his head than they are actually there. Well, the Hugh Grant character was talking to the mannequins and was talking to something kind of inanimate or wasn't there, and had this sort of plot that he had, and it was about and kind of like how Hugh Grant, the picture book was a map, and the map was supposed to lead to something valuable. Well, Paddington is the map, and he's supposed to lead us to something valuable. So, you can't escape how similar some of these plots are, some of these plot points are. And so even though nothing that is happening is offensive, and I did like Antonio Banderas' performance. I like the whole thing of him being marred by this curse. And I even like the fact that he had a daughter, and although that was fucked up, leaving his daughter on that island like that was fucked up.
Apparently there's purple-kneed tarantulas running around that'll kill you.
Yeah, apparently, right? Yeah, because we have the danger book of Peru. But I did kind of like this whole dynamic of him having this daughter and her being like, no, you don't want to do this. Don't obsess over this. You don't need this. And him fighting against that, but feeling like he had to do this thing and this curse that's over him, and him wanting that treasure, and the back and forth with that. So I didn't hate that character, but I just couldn't help but look at some of the similarities he had to the Hugh Grant character. Like I said, we're doing this sleight of hand thing where we're slightly changing it and saying, hey, it's different. Just don't look too hard, but we promise you it's different.
They're like, no, it's not the same. That was in London. This is Peru.
Exactly.
It's wildly different.
Yeah, isn't it different, guys? Come on. Isn't it different? So, yeah, that's kind of the unfortunate thing with this. Unfortunately, you're following a movie that did a lot of these things. So it doesn't feel as authentic anymore. I did like the journey and where we were, like going to Peru and being in the jungle and doing all of those things, and Paddington thinking he knows the way, but really he's lost and can't figure it out, and all of that kind of stuff. There were parts of this that are genuinely good parts, and them getting lost and them saying, Paddington doesn't belong here. This is not where he belongs. He belongs with us. But ironically, we do find out that this is where he belongs. This El Dorado, this Orange Grove place is where he came from. And I didn't even really hate that story about, okay, this is where he actually comes from. This is how he got separated. This is why he was trying to grab that orange when he got separated. All of that stuff was fine how it came together, and was a fine plot point and for Paddington and everything. It was fine. But again, none of this is excellent stuff, because we've seen time and time again sort of this scenario with other characters where it's like the character in the odd family or the odd one out of the family finds out where they really belong and then has to make a choice. Do I go with the back to the people of where I'm from, my tribe and my people, or do I stay with the family, or do I stay with the people who have become my family through all these adventures and these ordeals? So this is sort of a scenario we've seen before. I mean, the child had it in Kong Skull Island. Even we just kind of, we've seen this dynamic before in other things.
You dropped a Kong fucking reference.
Yep.
Talking about Paddington. Did that make you feel a little gross?
No, I like how I feel.
No, I mean, it was a good reference.
Maybe
But I'm just saying you had to reference that. I'd feel bad just referencing that. That's all.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Leaves a bit of a bad taste. But like I was talking about, the cute cat with the charm and everything. Even though, yes, this is a bit tropey and I recognize it, I did like the charm and like what Heather said, the sweetness of how it all came together. How he started off with, I forget how he said the lines, but I like how it started as a line like, can I ask you something? Can I stay? And, it's seeming like he's going to say, can I stay with them? But then he's like, can I stay with you guys? And, it was a pretty heartfelt moment with them being relieved that Paddington was going to stay with them and everything. And actually what he said was a good line. Like this, I'm abridging it, but that line that he said, I really liked when he was like, this may be where I'm from, but this family is where I belong. He said something like that.
Yeah, like this
And
is where
that
I'm
was a
from,
great
but I
line.
belong with you.
Yeah, I may be from here, but I belong with you. That was a great line. That was a good line to wrap it all up and everything like that. And that is a very important lesson, and that's a good lesson, I think, for where the film was going and everything. So, like I said, we don't do everything perfectly, but when it was time to cut on the charm was definitely there. And I liked Coleman's character too, with the whole back and forth of, is she suspicious or is she not suspicious? And she had some funny moments with Mrs. Bird where it was like, oh, this is just a secret wall. I mean, what's so wrong with that? Having this secret wall. It's a secret wall. I can't tell you what it is, but what's wrong with that? I mean, obviously there's nothing wrong with that, So like Olivia Colman was doing a really good job with that, and she played her role well. And the back and forth, is she or is she not, was fine. And then her being a cousin at the end and stuff like that, I don't know. Yeah, perhaps there is a better story. Perhaps you're right, Heather. Maybe she could have just been another person who was greedy, trying to get this treasure or attacking it from the different angle or something like that. Or I agree with that. But did she hurt anything? No, not necessarily. Did it help anything? I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of in the middle with, I like the character. I like their interactions, but where the character winds up and just kind of the story of that character where she just gets knocked out and that's it. I mean, okay. I guess. So yeah, but overall, I'm not mad at the movie. It had its charming moments. It had its good parts. But definitely we're starting to see a pattern. We're starting to recognize some things. Paddington has had enough movies now to where now some of these things are going to become like Paddington tropes, like how we had the Ninja Turtles and we said, there are these turtle tropes. If the more you make these movies, the more that's going to be a challenge and the more it's going to be a temptation to just do the easy thing and just do some stuff that we've done before and just do some sleight of hand and do some slight change stuff and coin it as something different? Or do you really want to try to take this character and try to infuse some new possibilities and some new things? So we'll see what they wind up doing. I don't know if there's going to be any more Paddingtons after this, but if they do make one, I hope that it doesn't even more fall into some of the tropes and traps that were not so subtle in this movie.
They're always slow to announce Paddington movies, so nothing yet. But one of the things, though, to take into account when it comes to the Olivia Colman character being related to him, since this is a family movie, you want something visual to tip off the kids. And it's to give them that, it's the tattoo. It's to give kids that. I get it. And that's that almost, hard thing to blend when it comes to family movies is some things are a little too kid friendly and some things are a little too adult friendly. And it's like, how do you bridge that gap? It's tough. Not impossible. Paddington 2 did it perfectly. But that's just part of the problem with it. And two, I'm wondering if so much of these Paddington tropes, like you were calling it, Jastin, the fact that this is so much like the second movie, just in a different location, is that because it's a book series? And that's typically what you do in kids' books, where it's always the same Paddington story. You just kind of like Paddington in a shopping mall, Paddington at school, Paddington in Peru, Paddington on the train. You know what I mean? Like, it's all the same shit over and over again. You just change the location. You're like, it's a new book.
Yeah, I get that. And it's funny because even as you were talking about the Olivia Colman character, there are similarities with a family member suspecting that there might be more to this person than meets the eye, just like the mom in the second one suspected Hugh Grant. But here it was Mrs. Bird. They kind of suspected, like, damn, they did do a lot of shit from the second movie, Yeah. But I think, it's funny that you say that because I hope that's not what it becomes, where it's just like, we're going to keep doing this second movie. It was perfect, right? So why change it? We'll just change everything around it, but not it itself.
Paddington in Uruguay. Paddington in Florida.
But what you said too, Sterling, like, to be fair, I honestly, just because of how much I enjoy the Paddington films, I do forget that they are technically kids' films. Because typically with those, I'll be like, yeah, I understand from this perspective, but it's a kid's film, so this. I just didn't even consider doing that with this one because I'm just like, it's Paddington. Like, everybody loves it. It's not a kid's movie. It's for us. So it's easy to forget it's a kid's movie. And so I guess that's why some of those things, like, yeah, I should be more forgiving of some of them because, like, yeah, you're right. Some of it's like, we got to track it for younger people. But yeah, I guess in my own perfect world, I think it's just an adult movie. So I just get more like, oh, fix it this way and this way, but then it won't track for younger audiences that way. So that is a fair point that you bring up.
Oh, I get it. Like, because I was the only one of us that saw Paddington 2 in theaters. And yeah, like, it really is. It's like, it's very hard. Like, it's easy to forget sometimes. Like, even like, think about it. Toy Story 5 is coming out, I think, next year. We're going to go to that movie. There's going to be a ton of kids in it and all this other shit. It's going to be hard to remember. It's a kid's movie, even though it's animated and all this other stuff. Why? Because the first one came out when we were kids. So it's like this ownership of it. It's like, no, I've been watching this series since I was a kid. It's for me. And you have to remember sometimes they still make them not for you. They just hope you still like it. It's made for kids, though. That's priority number one for them, really. But also, I don't know how you forget that. There were so many kids in the theater when I watched it, and I wanted to punt them down the stairs. Like, do you realize I wish I could have had movies like this when I was a kid? No, I got Harriet the Spy. You fuckers get spoiled by having like Paddington and shit. Jastin, don't fucking give me that look. You don't fucking like that movie either. Don't give that false like, oh, I like it bullshit. You don't fucking like it either. Don't act like that.
Had to bring that up.
Because you brought it up earlier.
It was different. It was in the news section.
Okay. And that's called going full circle.
Damn it. I don't like the circle. It's an imperfect circle.
Jastin, you love circles because you love cutting them in half.
That I do. I love to cut. But yeah, but now, but you're making a good point about the kids and everything. I guess when I was talking about Olivia Colman and everything, you know what might have even been funny and even played more into that kid thing or something. I almost had wished that she had opened up, that she had opened up the path to El Dorado and then walked in there and discovered that it was just nothing but oranges and a bunch of bears. And the disappointment.
Yes.
I think Olivia Colman could have totally been the I did this, I orchestrated this, I put this together under everybody's nose. Give me that bracelet, Paddington. I'm going to open this thing up. And then only to discover that it's just a bunch of oranges and a family of bears. I think that would have been hilarious too.
Yes, I do agree
rather
with
than
you on that.
and then get knocked out by the plane or something.
Yes, I do agree with that though. She should have gone in there and been disappointed.
Because then we would have got a great scene from her. We would have got a great disappointed.
'Cause she was so
kid-friendly
committed to
Olivia
this.
Colman.
Like she was undercover for so long. And then,
Yeah,
it would have
for
been a
years.
good payoff with that, the disappointment of realizing what you were just working so hard to trick everybody with is just, it wasn't worth it to you because of this,
Yeah.
Or
So
like-
it could have been this thing like Paddington's able to charm Antonio Banderas and everything and his daughter and everything. But she's the one that slides under the radar. And she gets so close and she's like, I was orchestrating this the whole time, whether she was related to Antonio Banderas or not, or maybe she is, and she reveals the tattoo or whatever. Whether you have that piece or not, I love the idea of her not revealing herself until she thinks, this old treasure is mine, and then it's fucking oranges.
Yeah.
Or at
And
least,
then, I can hear Paddington, what could be more precious than this?
Yeah.
I could see. I could
or just at least a
I
scene
can see that. I
where
could
she
totally
finds
see
out,
that.
where they tell her, and she just goes insane because she's just she's put in an asylum because she's just for how long? I did for oranges, and she just can't believe it.
Yeah.
I think it would be funny if it was she's like, I can finally get away from all of these bears. And then she goes in there and it's still just more bears. I think that would be funny.
Yeah, I think that would have been great. I was hoping, because after we saw what El Dorado was, it just made me wish that one of the villains had found it first and realized that it was just fucking oranges. I just think that.
But hers is even better because then she can have her do that thing where she's just develops an irrational fear of oranges at that point. Seeing an orange just takes her over the edge, and you know what I mean? It scars her so much. And then so they're they take her and they send her to, the polar bear place, and she walks in, and the first thing somebody does is a polar bear hands her an orange, and she just screams.
Yeah. And it maybe could have been this thing where, well, then again, no, I guess that's copying the second one too. I was going to say, what if it was this thing where she wouldn't try the marmalade sandwich, but then you get to the end and, she's kind of given up at this point because it's man, I'm in a valley of bears and oranges. And then she tries the marmalade sandwich and she's like, my life has changed, but that's too much like the prisoner.
Okay, but Jastin, after how much other
Paddington
shit,
too.
after how much other shit you stole, you might as well though.
Yeah.
That's fair.
At a certain point, you're past the point of no return when it comes to how much you're stealing.
So maybe, maybe she's not he tries to give us a marmalade sandwich. She's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then, that could have came full circle at the end when she's given up and she's like, wow, all of this, years of doing this and manipulating Aunt Lucy and doing all and orchestrating all of this. And it's just oranges. And she's just sitting there, dejected. And then Paddington comes up.
Yeah, or like she hates the oranges, and then Paddington's like, "Let me show you something," and he shows her how to make the marmalade, and she's like,
No. He offers her a sandwich, and she's like, "I could never." And then he hard stares her, and she's like, "Fine." And then she takes a bite, and her life's changed because she deserved a hard stare too.
Yeah.
I think that would have wrapped up nicely.
I mean,
with
because just think about it though, Jastin. Why they should have just had her life changed from the marmalade is it's the difference between somebody stealing $10 or $11.
Yeah, you're right.
If somebody comes and steals your money,
that $11,
and you're just like, well, at least they didn't steal my other dollar. But if they stole all 11 of your dollars, are you going to be any less fucked or like pissed off? You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, you're just like steal the other dollar.
Then in one of the mid-credit scenes, she could have been sitting there with who was the other guy in jail,
or Hugh Grant.
Yeah, enjoying a marmalade sandwich, or the big one, the big cook.
Yeah,
one.
Where was Brendan Gleeson or any of the other guys?
Yeah,
you telling me they didn't end up back in jail?
That's who I want, because Hugh Grant was by himself. I was fine with all that Hugh Grant stuff. That was cool. But no, him, that big ass, Gleason. She could have been in there enjoying a marmalade sandwich with him. Like, they really are the best thing, aren't they? That would have been funny.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Anyway, you got more Paddington thoughts, guys?
Nope.
On that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com, Cinema Slayers podcast on Facebook, cinema_slayers on Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd. We're at Cinema Slayers pod on YouTube and TikTok. Give us 5-star rating and review. Really appreciate it. Really help us out. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your family's friends, tell your friends' families. And most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
Paddington and that marmalade. It's got to be.
Oh, I was going to say monkey toys.
Oh, yeah. That too. But mostly Paddington and his marmalade.
Shout out to Plug Migo Mundo Cho for a theme song and logo, respectively. We here at the Cinema Slayers podcast are Pro Slut, Pro Sydney, Pro Naked, and you. Yes, you Cinefans, you are enough. Justice for Chris, justice for Todd, justice for all those wonderful stunt people, animators, and caterers that make all the movies we watch possible. And, as I always end the TikToks, the YouTube videos, and most importantly, this podcast, just remember, according to Jastin, Moon Knight is the Best Picture winner. I almost hit the wrong one.
I want to see that play that Hugh Grant was talking about with all the bears playing parts. I want to see it.
Man, what is Paddington doing to that poor Brown family?
There was hella bears in that house. Do you know all the hair and
shit?
Excrement
just shit everywhere? Not a clean toothbrush. They're shoving all their toothbrushes in their ears.
Yeah.
Man, with all those bears, they were taking all the main toothbrushes, all the backups, and all the backup toothbrushes. This family has because they live with a bear.
Yep.
I mean, that's ridiculous. See that, man? He made the Brown family go spend hundreds of dollars on just a bunch of electric toothbrushes for his family. And also, what would bears that grew up in a secret Orange Valley in Peru know about air travel to London? What airlines is putting bears on?
Lucy, maybe? I don't know.
Putting that. Man, Lucy didn't come, did she? Yeah.
No, she didn't.
Nope.
Oh,
She could have arranged it. She could have used her flyer points, though.
man, how fucked up is that, dude? He invited everybody but his Aunt Lucy at the end. Damn, that's fucked up, Pat.
Yeah. Yeah, what was Aunt Lucy?
Maybe she just couldn't travel because she's older.
Oh, you're right, because those weren't retirement bears. Those are secret Orange Grove bears.
Yes.
Yeah. And you saw how she was without her glasses, man.
Just
She really couldn't see shit.
couldn't. Just a useless bear at that point.
Yeah. She was just sitting there chilling, dog. El Dorado.
Dude, she lost her
chilling.
glasses and she's like, I guess I'm staying. Like,
Yeah. I ain't going
fuck my
nowhere.
nephew that's coming here to see me. I'm just
Yeah.
staying here, man.
Yeah, I ain't going nowhere. I'm not even going to have somebody go out the door and just send one of these 1,000,000 bears to just go tell them where
Man,
I am.
What about those bears that were running around the forest in the camouflage near them? Not one of them could go, hey, bro, your Aunt Lucy's just chilling over here. Just like,
Yeah.
She's at
You can
least
see
tell
it.
this young
One of
child
those
she's
damn
safe.
bears. It was 457.8 thousand bears. And not one of them could go just tell him, man. Just go
He is a
deliver message.
child. You can't even just tell him, hey, bro, your aunt's at least alive and safe.
I mean, some of those bears look like young bucks. I mean, they were jumping and rolling around
Dude,
and going,
yeah.
marmalade, hoo, hoo,
And they
hoo.
were
I
running
mean,
around
I'm
the
sure.
forest. They were following them through the forest in the camouflage the whole time. And
Yeah.
can't write him a post-it note?
Yeah. And I know she has a picture of Paddington.
Well, dude, they knew he was one of them.
Yeah, they knew. So, just couldn't send one of them? Come on, Aunt Lucy. That's why he didn't invite her. He probably realized all that and said, nah, y'all let Aunt Lucy chill there for a bit.
I came all the way to Peru for you, and this is what I get.
I almost died so many times, Aunt Lucy. So many times. There was a man trying to kill me. And you're just chilling.
I mean, she was sitting comfortable, boy.
Well, what about all those other
In your
bears?
orange grove.
What about all
There
those other
wasn't
bears, though?
There wasn't a strand of worry on her face.
What about
She
all
was
those
just
bears, though, that
chilling.
run around the forest being the guardians of the El Dorado? They're watching one of their El Doradan bears potentially get murdered, and they're just like, now we got to see how this plays out. We can't just go kill this man that's going to kill one of our bears.
This
Yeah.
child bear.
Because they knew his bear name. That's how you know they knew who he was. They knew his fucking bear name.
That's true.
And they're just like, man, that's Steve. Well, that'd be kind of funny if his bear name was Steve. And they're just like, dude, that's Steve. And they're like, shit, is he going to get killed? I don't know. Let's find out.
Right.
Anyway. You guys got anything else? We done?
Yeah, we're done.
I think we are. Oh, what was that preview at the end of?
That's Osgood Perkins' next movie that comes out later this year.
okay.
That's it.
Okay.
And it's just got Tatiana Maslany in it again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looked kind of interesting, I guess.
Yeah,
We'll
no,
see, I
that's it.
guess.
Yeah.
It's just a trailer for his next one.
Okay.
Man, Osgood, man, he made Gretel and Hansel like 18 years ago. And he's just cranking them out now.
I know.
Doing like 2 movies a year, just cranking them out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Later.